brand new episode of the Brickyard podcast. We're coming to you live on a Tuesday night before Thanksgiving to recap every single game that went down in week 12, all the playoff implications that happened, the giant meltdowns from some say before the year, the favorite in the AFC, the favorite to come out of the NFC, both melting down this week. Then we're also going to previewing every single game from week 13. We have our Q3 reviews, so we're going to be reviewing and grading every single NFL team. That's right, we talk about every single NFL team on this show, not just the Cowboys, not just the Kansas City Chiefs, repeating the same storylines over and over again. And then we're not going to also just randomly crash out on players for absolutely no reason. And First Take has kind of become a joke at this point, but we both, I feel like everyone in the sports world saw the clip of Stephen A. Smith crashing out on Drake May. Do you know who First Take is? Do you know that this is the #1 rated show in sports? I'm like, do you mean the show that is only rated #1 in the morning for sports because you're played in every single airport, gym, and hotel in the country? So you essentially get all your business by just being on in the background when no one's really watching it. I mean, who on earth sits at home and is like, at 10 a.m., I'm going to watch First Take in my pajamas while I eat my cereal? Unless you're retired, I don't think
Or
anyone
retarded.
or retarded. I don't think anyone under the age of 65, which is also conveniently the age you start picking up Social Security, is going to be watching that on their own time anymore. Sorry to burst your bubble, Stephen A.
Yeah, plus, like, it's great that you have the #1 cable show for morning sports, but, like, is that a flex anymore? That's like saying, like, oh boy, I have this giant tape collection in my house. Nobody has a better tape collection than me. It's like, congratulations. That was a huge flex back in the 90s. And now we're talking about cable. And the whole debacle started because Cam Newton said that the Patriots were fool's gold, saying that the Patriots were not legitimate, that they've only faced bad teams. Maybe there's some truth in that, but they're 10-2. They're the 1 seed. So then Drake May responds back with, I don't even know what show Cam Newton's on, which is fair because he's on how many shows? Now he's on First Take. When we think about First Take, we think about Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, and in later years, Max Kellerman. We don't think about whatever First Take is now. We don't think about Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky and especially Cam Newton. Like, I didn't even know Cam Newton was on First Take until the clip came out. So, truthfully told, what Drake May said was valid because who the fuck knows that he's on First Take at this point? Who watches First Take anymore?
Yeah, it's like the main rotating guest for Marcus Spears, who looks like he could have a heart attack at any time. You have Dan Orlovsky, who farts on national television. So that's one of your other main analysts. And then you have Ryan Clark, who every other time he speaks on First Take or tweets on Twitter or goes on his own podcast, seems like this guy has to issue an apology each week. And then every time you see Ryan Clark, he looks like he's about to cry. And then we get like Mad Dog Russo, who appears once in a while, but it's just become Stephen A. Smith and friends at this point. And then you saw Molly just randomly abandon the show out of nowhere. So I don't really think that Drake May and the Patriots are actually paying attention to anything that anyone is saying on First Take, and the show is kind of a joke at this point. And like, also, if you're an athlete, like, you care about the Pat McAfee show because it's like a player friendly show, and that's about it. You're not really listening to it, especially with, feel like we have a ton of sports media right now, but overall, the just national ESPN Fox Sports product has declined rapidly.
Yeah, well, it's just like it's stale. We've been doing the same thing for 20 years now, debating Jordan, LeBron, debating Jokic over who. Like, it's the same arguments every single week. Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. Who's the best? It's stale at this point. And not only the fact that it's also on cable, which nobody has cable anymore. Everybody streams. It's clip-based economy these days. So, like, who cares? It's great that you're the #1 cable show. That's a massive flex. General Hospital is probably very jealous of you, but nobody cares. Like, being the #1 cable show, it's like having the most like I mentioned, the most tapes in the 90s. Like, congratulations. You're outdated media. Congratulations.
Yeah, and like Stephen A. Smith is someone who just like names random players who aren't even on the NFL teams at this point. But like Drake May was just like, yeah, that's sad, weird, to be honest. I don't care. I'm just focused on winning. And I kind of get Cam Newton's point, but the fact that Stephen A. Smith had to feel the need to go that over the top and just be like, Drake May is a liar. And it's like, well, I had to backpedal on that. He's not actually a liar. And if you didn't get that, like, no, 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 you just flipped it out on national television, thought it could get some good ratings, and then people talk about it, and they're like, well, I didn't actually call him a liar. It was kind of just hyperbolic. So if you took it the wrong way, sorry, I guess. Like, sorry, I guess, for saying that Shohei Ohtani can't be the face of baseball, even though he just won back-to-back championships, you know?
Yeah, and three MVPs in the last 4 years as well. It's just with Stephen A. Smith at this point, that crash out, what Cam Newton said, we can look into that. Patriots have faced a lot of easy teams. They did get a win against the Bengals this week in a tough game. But overall, like, their schedule's been very easy. What Cam Newton said, not crazy at all. Although I kind of disagree. But Stephen A. Smith going the extra mile, doubting that he's ever like that he doesn't watch First Take, that's just arrogant at that point. Like, you just sound like an asshole at this point. And he's had many moments where he's been like, Stephen A. Smith is not shy from being an asshole, but like, this was just like arrogant, cocky, overzealous. Like, get off your high horse, dude. Nobody cares about First Take anymore.
Yeah, like how about you continue like bullying politicians, which is kind of funny. It's like the funniest thing about Stephen A. Smith is like his book that came out, if you've read it, is laying the groundwork for a presidential run. And if you're looking at, the presidential race as far as sports as like kind of an open competition, it's going to be like a wide open race, and it's the first uncontested election since like 2016, I believe. So if Stephen A. Smith like decides to run for president, and then we're just gonna have moments like this on the weekly, which would be kind of funny. The number one sports cable show in the morning.
Yeah, it's like, congrats, man. That is an interesting thing to think about. Politics post the Trump era, like what that'll look like. But him running for president, that's a whole nother can of worms. That'll be interesting to see. But football occurred. Football was played on field and turf this Sunday. And before we get into how everything transpired, we have our best and worst top fives, the highly touted top five, worst top fives in the league. Shall we start with the best or the worst going into it?
Why don't we go ahead and start out positive this week? We have a lot to be thankful for heading into Thanksgiving. So, we're going to actually start the show with a little bit of positivity after just going over that negativity on First Take right now. So, I'm going to be giving you the 5 best teams. And now that we are heading towards Thanksgiving, the season is about to get real. So I am giving you the top 5 teams who I think could actually contend at this point and potentially get to a Super Bowl. And at number 5, they had their bye week, and they indeed did not lose to the bye week. It is the Denver Broncos and their 49 sack self up until week 11, which is tied for second best since 1989. And they got some rest this week, and it was a perfect bye where now you get to play after Thanksgiving, and then you get to kind of go on a run, get healthy. So I think this team is geared up to really challenge a lot of teams, because I feel like defense this year in the NFL has really caught up. The coaches have kind of figured out how to avoid some of those blatant pass interference penalties. The speed on the defense has caught up to the running backs and the quarterbacks coming out of the backfield at this point. And then with the Broncos defense, they've simply been the best at what they do, which is sacking the quarterback, especially in January. This is going to be very important, especially when you have 2 solid running backs right now with RJ Harvey. So at number 5, we have the Broncos. At number 4, still the Seattle Seahawks. I had them in the top 5 last week, and this week I have no reason to take them out. You go to Tennessee, kind of have a little bit of a wonky game. There was never really a doubt you're going to win that game. You're just playing against the team looking to build into next year, who really doesn't have, good players anywhere, and you're able to escape with a win. But really believe in this defense. Jackson Smith and Jigba now sets the franchise record. He is the leading Seattle Seahawks for one season, and we're only in week 12. So this man has a lot more work to do. He could very well finish the year with close to 2,000 receiving yards if we're being realistic, at least 1,800. So like what I'm seeing from him, also like what I'm seeing from the run game. Their tight ends have also been solid here. So at number 4, we have the Seattle Seahawks. At number 3, I don't know about you, but when I sat down Thursday and took a look up at that Houston Texans defense, I'm like, wow, if that's not a Super Bowl defense, I don't know what is, because you have Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, Aziz Al-Shir, and their secondary has been elite as well. The Houston Texans look like they very well may have the best defense in the league. They took Josh Allen, who just had 6 touchdowns. I know that was probably great for someone's fantasy team, but then as soon as he went up against a real defense in Houston on Thursday night, that's kind of been Josh Allen's house of horrors. That's where he played his first playoff game, ended up losing. He lost to the Houston Texans last year as well in a tough game, and they held their offense to 9 points. That was really impressive. And then just the next man up mentality of Davis Mills coming in, throwing 2 touchdowns at the end of the first half was exceptional, holding it together. And this is a team last year kind of struggled out of the gate, but picked it up. And as soon as the playoffs hit, they took it up to another notch. And then their defense, their offense all came together. So at number 3, have the Houston Texans. Excuse me. And then at number 2, it was kind of a rough game, sustained a couple injuries, but they've been so consistent throughout the season. Have to give it to the New England Patriots here, because you go out to Cincinnati, fall down 10-0, pretty poor conditions as far as the field, but Drake May is able to overcome a couple turnovers in this game, and the Patriots defense stepped up, got to stop what they needed it. They only have 2 more tough games. They're still on pace for the number 1 seed. They're well coached. There's not too much more you can say about this team. So at number 1, have the New England Patriots. About 3 weeks ago, I put this team at number 1, and they have not fallen out of it since, and that is the LA Rams. I mean, I've been at the front of the Rams bandwagon this season, and now on Sunday night, you go out there and drop 28 points on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Matthew Stafford has 3 touchdowns in the first half, and he's now on a 27 to no interception touchdown to pick ratio. Absolutely sensational. He's separating himself as far as the MVP conversation, leading the league in touchdown passes, and Devontae Adams looks absolutely renewed with this team. And the scariest thing is, their defense just came out and demolished the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. And if this Rams team's defense is going to be playing that well in the playoffs, I definitely think that the Rams should be the favorite to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC. And what do we need? A 3rd round of Patriots Rams in the Super Bowl. Greatest show on turf versus a tough nose, hard identity teams, which would be really fun, especially in San Francisco. So at number 1, still the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams, outstanding. Definitely the best team in the league. Shouting out the Seahawks as well. JSN is actually on track to have over 2,000 yards if he continues to play like he has for the first 12 weeks. So shout out to him. I was definitely wrong there with JSN. But great list, top 5. We now know the best of the best. But I say it's time that we know the worst of the worst. Want to shout out Mr. Magnolias in the YouTube comments. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your business and your eyeballs. Very much thanks there. But let's talk about the worst of the NFL in week 12. Let's first talk about who has graduated from the worst top 5s. The Browns. A win is a win, especially when you win. The Browns, they win, so therefore they are not the worst top 5. Congratulations, Browns. And I'm going to put the Giants here as well, because Jameis Winston, he's the Band-Aid of chaos. When things look ugly, Jameis is going to maybe make it look uglier, but we love Jameis Winston, and so it's a fun ride nonetheless. We'll leave the Giants alone this week. At number 5, I'm going to bully just just briefly the actual bad teams that are so bad that it actually feels mean for me to insult them and talk about them because they're clearly in rebuild. They got a lot of problems, dude. So the Saints and Titans, they are actually bad and they should be on the worst top fives. But is it nice of us to bully teams that are actually bad? Is it fun to kick people while they're down? No. So we'll leave them alone. We'll leave them at number 5. But Saints and Titans, you are a bad team. Get better. At number 4, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm putting them here for one reason and one reason only. You had Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold last year was in the MVP conversation. In fact, I'm pretty sure he got MVP votes last year. I think he finished in the MVP conversation at least. This year, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks, 2,700 yards. This year, you moved on from him so that you could start J.J. McCarthy. And what a nightmare that has been. Good Lord. 6 touchdowns, 10 picks. Has not started a game without throwing an interception in his career so far. J.J. McCarthy has been a nightmare. But the Vikings, their offense is in shambles due to that. And unfortunately, in that division, they're not going anywhere. I'll put the Vikings at 4. At number 3, New York sports. The Giants are the first team to be eliminated from the playoffs, and the Jets. The Jets, similar to the Vikings, had a guy that could have been their franchise guy, a guy that was the franchise guy for Green Bay for almost 20 years. And what has Aaron Rodgers done since the Jets moved on? He has the lead in the division. He has 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks. 19 touchdowns, 7 picks, almost 2,000 passing yards for Mr. Aaron Rodgers. And then what have the Jets quarterbacks done combined? Well, they have 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks. Justin Fields has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 games under 50 yards passing, which leaves him and very few others on that list. So the Jets, they're there. The big armpit lives on the worst top 5. They are number 3. At number 2, this is a team that's going to get a lot of flack for being on the worst top 5, but they're here for a reason. Marcus, I'm going to ask you, what is the definition of insanity? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results. And at number 2, yes, they're back on the worst top 5. The Buffalo Bills. How many times are you going to do the same thing over and over and over and over again? You lose to the Chiefs, not once, not twice, not 3, 4 times. And your method is, let's run it back. Let's do it again. 4 straight times. Not only that, you have an issue at wide receiver since Stephon Diggs returned, since he's left the building. And what is your solution? I know what we need to do. We need to sign an old receiver. That is what we're missing. We're missing Emmanuel Sanders. We're missing Cole Beasley. We're missing Jamison Crowder. We're missing Amari Cooper. No, this time around, we're missing Brandon Cooks. That is the solving. That is the Band-Aid that we've been seeking. All of our problems are solved. Bills Super Bowl, Bills Mafia. This is a complete joke. The Bills, while I don't think they're a terrible team, their defense certainly is. They're not going anywhere in the playoffs, and they very well might be a first-round exit, depending on who they match up with. Repeating the same thing over and over again is why you're the second worst team according to the Brickyard this week. But how am I supposed to put them at number 1 when the Raiders exist and Geno Smith exists? The root of all our problems, Geno Smith. It's bad enough that your team is as bad as it is. It's bad enough that you have dementia, Pete Carroll, and Chip Kelly, who is now walking out of that door, holding a cardboard box outside of Las Vegas. But you also are the first team since 1995 to have a first career start win for the Cleveland Browns, a record that was 0-17 the last 30 years for the Cleveland Browns. And you are the team to break history. You were the team that not only lost to the Browns, that's embarrassingly enough, but you also lost to a Nepo baby. That's also a diss in that sense, but also 0-17 for career starts to start with the Cleveland Browns in the last 30 years. And the Raiders say no, they need a win. They're due. So the Raiders are going to stay at number 1 because you lost to the Browns, because they were 0-17 entering then. And here we are now. The Raiders lose to the Browns. You are the worst team according to the Brickyard.
Yeah, and the Browns defense all season long has looked good, and honestly, they've been getting better throughout the season, which is impressive with how poor that the Cleveland Browns play has been. They're technically still not eliminated from the division lead, and I think the reason why most people didn't like Shador Sanders is kind of some of the reports coming through, like going through the combine there, but also like people just don't like a nepo baby. And I think that's kind of what it is with Shador Sanders because he already has the name. You're kind of gambling with him coming out of Colorado. It is a little bit weird though that it does seem like the I'm like someone who's like could care less if he's good or bad, but it does seem like the media did have a hard on against Colorado where, anytime you talk about Deion Sanders or Shador Sanders, it seemed like the media would immediately jump on them. There's a lot of negativity. So I'm coming as someone who's kind of impartial. Like, I kind of hope he's good because it'd be fun if the Cleveland Browns were. But I also understand, like, okay, he's a Nepo baby. So I kind of have my trepidations with him. So, like, for me, and I feel like for you, you're kind of lukewarm on him. And you know what? Say what you will about him. He was able to get out of the pocket and he had the Browns, I believe, their longest completion of the season. I think it was 49 yards. It was like a 50-yard pass downfield, and he was able to do that. He had the nice screenplay for a 66-yard touchdown, and people want to clown him for that. But credit to Shador Sanders for actually taking the check down because in a world of Josh Allen not checking it down to James Cook, Shador Sanders like, you know what? Let me check it down to my running back. Let him make a play. And, they still have a pretty good offensive line. Kevin Stefanski still is a good offensive head coach. So he has a little bit of athletic ability, a little bit of elusivity. It was versus the Raiders, who have a okay defense. They're pretty good at times. Max Crosby can cause some havoc, but like I like seeing a quarterback come in for the Browns and actually energize the sideline. And Myles Garrett was really happy about what he saw there too. So the Browns just didn't look as dreadful. I'm not saying he was amazing, but at least he looked like a surge of energy.
Yeah, I agree. I think for Shador and the Browns, like, I don't care whether Shador is amazing. I don't care if he fizzles out. That's fine. But I think it's good for the city of Cleveland. It's good for Shador and it's good for the NFL if he's at least a good story. Like, ultimately, is he their guy moving forward? Is he the future? I'm not so sure. But he played his first game. He started. He won. He's had a lot of adversity entering into Cleveland. Unsure of whether they wanted him in Cleveland, but he gets his chance. He steps up. He throws for 200 yards, has a touchdown in this game, and they win their game. And honestly, that's enough for me. I think if he's a decent quarterback and he's a fun story, then I'm okay with him being successful in the NFL. So shout out Shador for the win. And the Browns, hopefully they can string some wins together.
Yeah, because like the Browns are kind of still in play for the division as well, and you played the Ravens pretty tough when you played them last week, so it'll be interesting to see. And then Deshaun Watson was also on the sideline talking about how he wants to return at some point. So the Browns quarterback situation is going to be very weird, especially if it's going to be like Deshaun Watson and Shador Sanders and Dylan Gabriel still. And I think the reason why Dylan Gabriel was so ugly when he was playing for the Browns is because he's left-handed, and left-handed quarterbacks, it just doesn't look right. And then you see the Falcons go from like Kirk Cousins to from Michael Penix to Kirk Cousins, and you're like, oh, I remember what it's like to not have a lefty. Like in the NFL, for some reason, it just looks off, like more than
Yeah.
any other sport.
Yeah. And there's not really a lot of successful lefty quarterbacks all time. I think it's like Steve Young. And then outside of that, like when I see lefty quarterbacks, I think of like Tim Tebow and Tua, two guys that I don't want to have in my mind when I'm thinking about my franchise guy. It looks awkward. And I can't really think of a comparable comparison for it, but it's just one of those things that looks weird. So I think Shador being there, I hope he's really good. And ultimately happy that the Browns got the dub.
But we go to Thursday night football, and oh my God, how many times did we hear, oh my God, Josh Allen is so amazing? 6 touchdowns on Sunday. Can you believe what happened with the Buffalo Bills against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Josh Allen had 6 total touchdowns? And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but what happens when Josh Allen doesn't get 6 touchdowns? What happens when he only gets 4 touchdowns? What happens when he only gets 3 touchdowns in a playoff game? Because you're going to face a team like Houston, like Kansas City, whose defense looked really good on Sunday, like the Patriots, and Josh McDaniels knows how to play Sean McDermott, like the Denver Broncos, and then we saw them against one of those defenses, and I said, I don't know, something is telling me that the Houston Texans are going to win this game. You actually picked them to win, but I was like, the Buffalo Bills have to have too much desperation, right, to go out and lose to the Houston Texans, especially a team that Josh Allen has been historically tormented against. You would think he would come out against that team and be like, you know what? Patrick Mahomes went out there and he beat Jared Goff this season. So why don't I put my demons to bed too and beat the Houston Texans, team that bounced me in my first time making the playoffs, team that humiliated me last year. But what does Josh Allen do? He scores 9 points, and the other touchdown was just a long run from James Cook, and it was a nightmare. He got sacked 8 times, which was the most times of his career, and he threw 2 interceptions in this game, 1 interception to end the game. The highlight of this game for the Buffalo Bills was that one lateral play. But thoughts on Houston, just their defense demolishing the Bills offense, and does this give you any confidence that the Bills should still be the favorite in the AFC, which was the case after last Sunday?
No. First, to answer your first question, no, I don't think Buffalo was never my favorite to enter out of the AFC. Outside of Josh Allen and James Cook, who are they throwing to? I like Khalil Shakir. He's great, but he's not their number one. They solve it by getting Brandon Cooks. And their defense is still bad. Like, their defense is generally either banged up or just not a good high functioning defense. Then I look at the Texans. They don't even have their starting quarterback. Josh Allen literally just lost to Davis Mills. And I don't want to disrespect Davis Mills because he played a fine game. There were some throws that he missed here and there. He's a backup quarterback for sure. But the Texans, the fact that they were able to get to Josh Allen 8 times, the fact that they, outside of a few big runs from James Cook, relatively contained their running game as well, is insane. And if I'm the Texans, I'm ecstatic for CJ Stroud to return because you got it going with Nico Collins. Woody Marks looked incredible in this game. He had a couple of big runs in there. And you didn't even have your starting quarterback. Imagine when CJ Stroud comes back and they get back into rhythm. This is a team that you should be horrified to face come playoff time because right now they're right in that mix,
too.
and I think they make the
Their
playoffs.
first round pick.
Yeah, Woody Marks was their first round pick. That's even scarier.
No, Higgins.
Oh yeah, Jaden Higgins too. Like the Texans just stepped up, and I felt confident picking them because they have that defense. And I also think Davis Mills is heavily disrespected. You look at the teams that he was on in Houston when he was starting. This team did not have the Nico Collins, did not have the Christian Kirks of the world. And I still felt like he played relatively well compared to that. So shout out Dougie Mills and shout out that defense. Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, absolutely disgusting. We also had a few picks in this game as well. Kalen Bullock got 2 picks in this game. So huge shout out to this is a big win for the Texans.
Yeah, now the Bills. Josh Allen has lost to Tua, Michael Penix, and Davis Mills so far in this season. And, they went out there, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but this is a Bills team where it seems like every week people are like, oh my God, what's happening with the Bills? It's like you bring back. We made this joke. You made this joke before the season when we were previewing the Bills. Like, oh, you brought back the exact same team as last year. What a great idea, because that always works out, especially when you just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs for not the first, not the second, not the third, but the 4th time, which is an NFL record for losing to a team in the playoffs. And then you bring back the same coach? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And it's like, I've said it in the worst top 5. It's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And after this game, after it was clear that they didn't have a deep threat, they do the same thing that they've done the last 5 years. They go out and they sign Emmanuel Sanders or Cole Beasley or Jamison Crowder or Amari Cooper. And now it's Brandon Cooks to add to that list. Let's get a veteran receiver who's past their prime. That's going to solve all of our problems. Brandon Cooks is still probably a very solid receiver, and it's a nice pickup for the Bills, but he's not going to solve your problems. You still have the Gabe Davises of the world, the Josh Palmers, a reject of LA. Like, this is not a good receiving core, especially when you're going up against a team like the Chiefs, who have a legitimate number one in Rashee Rice. You have the Ravens, who have the Zay Flowers and, I don't know, Derrick Henry of the worlds. And then the list goes on. And now the Patriots have Stephon Diggs. I can go on. But every other team has better firepower than the Bills offense. The only thing that the Bills have going for them is that they have Josh Allen and they have James Cook. If you can contain James Cook, probably contain Josh Allen at the same time. And that's what kind of happened in this game.
Yeah, and this is a game that, too, I thought the Bills, the reason why I picked the Bills, even though I had a sneaking suspicion the Texans could win, I was like, you can't possibly lose this game, especially because it'd put you 2.5 games behind the New England Patriots. They only have 2 more games against potential playoff teams, which is against the Bills and Ravens, and they have a 50-50 shot against both teams. I would say they should be the favorite to beat the Ravens. Maybe the Bills beat them the second time because they'll give the Bills that respect, but who knows, especially after this game, and if Milton Williams is back, because they believe they play Buffalo off of the bye. So they're going to be well rested when they play them again. So it's like this was your last shot at winning the division. And now that you lost this game, you're going to be going on the road. And if you want to get to the Super Bowl, this year is probably your best shot that you're going to have with Josh Allen, especially with how the Chiefs have been playing. And then the Broncos are there, the Patriots are there, the Texans are there, the Colts are there, the Jaguars, but all those teams are kind of inexperienced. So this was your real shot to take over the AFC. And now you're going to have 3 games on the road, probably in Denver or in New England for one of those games. And then you're going to have to go to the Super Bowl. And you think this is a team that could go toe to toe with the Rams and not get completely buzzsawed? Like, no, like this was your last shot.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kills me. Is like the Bills have had their chances. They had a lead with 13 seconds against the Chiefs. They had moments in last year's game where it came down to a field goal that they missed. It's always about inches with this team. And then again, even on Thursday night, Matt Prater missing an extra point. That's the difference between them tying the game and going to overtime and them losing in regulation. That's exactly what happened. It doesn't help that they didn't score a touchdown in the second half. That doesn't help either. But this Bills team, it's frustrating for me because as a guy that respects football, loves Josh Allen as a quarterback, very gifted, Superman, dare I say. But this team is slowly starting to remind me of the 2015 Panthers and just the Cam Newton era Panthers, where it's Josh Allen or bust, Cam Newton or bust. They don't surround him with top level talent. The one time they did, they were knocking on the doors of the Super Bowl with Stephon Diggs. They let him walk and they don't replace him. That made no sense to me. Why wouldn't you go out there and go after a T. Higgins or go after an A.J. Brown, somebody that can give you that deep threat? Instead, you do this everybody wins mentality, whatever bullshit that Joe Brady's pushing on them, and it's not working. This offense, if it's not Josh Allen scoring 6 touchdowns, you're not winning football games at this point, and it's killing me. It's either him or James Cook, and James Cook's been great, but other than that, this offense is very easy to manage, I would say.
Yeah, and it's it like the problem with Josh Allen is he refuses to check the ball down to James Cook sometimes and just take those easy check downs, and he tries to make too much of a play. And when you play an elite defense like the Texans, you saw some of the plays where they were just tackling him way behind the line of scrimmage when he was running around. But we talked about this when we were texting back and forth about this game this week. But the Bills, I mean, you lose 4 straight Super Bowls. Tyler Fish misses a kick versus the Chiefs in a playoff game. You lose a 13-second game to the Kansas City Chiefs. To win a Super Bowl, Josh Allen needs to leave. Like, he's not going to win a Super Bowl with the Buffalo Bills. The sad part is he just signed a big contract, but go play with Kyle Shanahan. Go sign yourself up for the San Francisco 49ers. Or when Matthew Stafford retires, you walk your tail into Sean McVay's office, meet him in Mexico, do the same deal. And then you go out there and you play with the LA Rams. You get yourself an elite offensive head coach, but staying in Buffalo, this franchise is officially cursed. You're never going to do it. You had a 5-year window of the Patriots being bad, and now you're falling apart this season, and you're going to be a wild card team because you're 2.5 games behind the Patriots, and they don't have a hard schedule. Not saying necessarily that the Patriots will be a better team in the playoffs than you, but that's just the reality of where it is at this point. So I think Josh Allen, he has to leave. He has to leave Buffalo, especially like you're married to Haley Steinfeld right now. Do you think she wants your fans to be Buffalo Bills fans for the rest of her life? Like, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Another thing with the Bills that kills me is there's been so many opportunities where they've fallen short in bringing back the same team. Can you fire Sean McDermott? How many times can this guy get outcoached? He got outcoached in this Texans game with D'Amico Ryans. Every time they face the Chiefs, they get outcoached by Andy Reid. And the Bengals game, they got outcoached by Zach Taylor. They get outcoached in every playoff matchup because Sean McDermott, dare I say it, is an overrated head coach. His call to fame was being the defensive coordinator for the Panthers back when they had Luke Kuechly on the team, a team that was disgusting, and Greg Hardy. Like, yeah, that's like being great with the Ravens back in the 2000s as a defensive coordinator. Congratulations, but all of your leaders are carrying that defense. So I think Sean McDermott's overrated. I think they should fire Sean McDermott, especially if we look at their playoff seeding, which we're going to go over later, most likely on the show. If the season ended today, they're facing the Broncos. And that Broncos defense is going to eat their lunch because they're going to stop James Cook. Josh Allen's going to be Superman. And Pat Surtain's probably going to walk away with a pick or two because of it. And the Broncos, sure, their offense isn't great, but that's a win for the Broncos most likely. So we're talking about a scenario where you're going to be a first-round exit when you were favorited in every single game entering the season. You were on track to go 17-0 according to Vegas. And now you're not even going to potentially make the playoffs? Are you kidding me? Why is Sean McDermott not on the hot seat? Why is it not talked about more in the media? Shouldn't Sean McDermott be fired immediately if he's not going to the Super Bowl this year? Like, this is your year. The Patriots have ascended. This is your moment. Go and get it, Buffalo.
Yeah, the Chiefs might miss the playoffs. Now, analytically, they have above a 60% chance since they beat the Indianapolis Colts to make the playoffs. So, yeah, a lot of stuff to break down with the Buffalo Bills. We'll continue to cover this meltdown. Probably have to do a full documentary on how bad they suck, how historically bad they've been in the offseason. We could probably do a whole episode on all the failures of the Buffalo Bills. So, stay tuned for that coming. But let's move over to that Kansas City Chiefs and Indianapolis Colts game. This is a game I kind of saw coming. And this should be everyone's fear with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm like, okay, it's nice what they're doing with Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones, but I'm like, as soon as Jonathan Taylor gets stopped and Daniel Jones has to win you the game, he won't. Why? He's Daniel Jones. I mean, haven't we seen this before? Like, the Kansas City Chiefs defense comes alive, wakes up, and their Colts defense played very well. That's probably the highlight along with Jonathan Taylor, but Daniel Jones just wasn't able to pick up a big third down when they needed to ice the game. And that's going to be the story heading into the playoffs. I believe they're going to match up with the Houston Texans this week, and they play the Jaguars and the Texans twice. I think they've played the Jaguars once already, but they have 3 games that are going to be hard against divisional opponents. Still have another couple games that are going to be tough. I believe they play in San Francisco as well, and San Francisco should have a pretty good shot at beating them. So now you go from the number 1 seed in the AFC to staring down the barrel of potentially being a wild card team right now, especially with how Houston and even Jacksonville has been playing at this point. But Kansas City needed this to game. Their defense came alive, and pretty much every single reason why I have not been putting the Indianapolis Colts on the top 5 this season came to fruition. I have not put the Bills on the top 5 this season outside of maybe one time. The one time I did, they end up getting blown out by the Falcons. So I'm like, fuck me. But they've been on the worst top 5 more times than not. And then the Indianapolis Colts, I'm like, no, I'm not going to put them on the top 5 this year because I know what's going to happen. A defense is going to stop Jonathan Taylor. Daniel Jones isn't going to be able to pick up a down to ice the game. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and that's why I felt confident picking the Chiefs as well. Cashed in on my 2.5 spread on the Chiefs. And this wasn't a pretty game for the Chiefs all around. Like, Mahomes made some mistakes. There were some dropped balls. There were some fumbles in this game. Like, this was not a great Chiefs game, I would say, offensively. But it came down to you stop Jonathan Taylor. And if you can stop Jonathan Taylor, you can stop the Colts. And we saw that today. That's the same success that we saw with the Steelers a few weeks ago. If you can contain Jonathan Taylor, then ultimately that's the key to success there. If you look at the Steelers game, held them to 45 yards. Daniel Jones throws 3 picks in that game. So I'm concerned with the Colts for a few reasons. For one, your 2 biggest opponents in that division, you face twice. You face the Texans this upcoming week. Then you face the Jags. Then you face the Jags and Texans to end the season. And
to end the
that could
season in back-to-back weeks.
back-to-back weeks. And in between that, you face the Seahawks, who are top 5 team according to the Brickyard, and the Niners, who just beat the Panthers convincingly. Like, I could see a world where the Colts lose out potentially.
They
And I
missed
think
the
this
playoffs.
yeah, like this is a scenario. I predicted this earlier in the season. Like, it's awesome that they started 7-2. And I don't think this is I think I got to give a lot of credit to Shane Steichen and Jonathan Taylor, but I can see a complete meltdown happening for them. You have two teams in your division who are riding high. The Texans have won 5 of the last 6 games. Then you have the Jaguars that are up only a game behind you at this point. And the way that the AFC is shaking out, they can really only afford another 2 or 3 losses before they might not even make the playoffs at this point. So I think the Colts are in a lot of trouble, and especially because Daniel Jones can't convert in those moments. I think we're going to see the Colts miss the playoffs. That's the hot take I'm going with.
Yeah, and we've seen these Miami Dolphin teams too start hot in September, October, kind of play around in November a little bit where it's like, okay, some of the magic is still there for a little bit, but people are starting to figure out what this Colts offense does well. And at this point, you just have to make Daniel Jones throw the ball. And well, I do think, yeah, I think you can split with the Jacksonville Jaguars, just because Trevor has his
Seasons.
highs and he has his lows. But I think Houston's probably going to sweep you. I don't think you have a shot against Seattle. And then San Francisco is still in the mix for their division, as crazy as that is. So I think San Francisco still probably beats you as well, especially with Christian McCaffrey starting to pick it up at this point. So yeah, I think with the Colts, like kind of every suspicion I had, Tony Romo came out of this game and his takeaway, like, oh my God, the Colts are for real. And like, no, the Kansas City Chiefs haven't been impressive this year. I mean, they've been pretty good at home, but the fact that it took the Chiefs to get to overtime, the Chiefs have pretty much lost every single big game this year. This was the first one possession game against a playoff team or a team with a winning record that they won this season. So it's like, it's not like the Chiefs have been wildly impressive either.
Yeah, no, I wasn't very impressed with what I saw from the Chiefs this game either. They leaned on Kareem Hunt. They gave him 30 carries. I think he was fine in this game overall, but overall, like outside of Rashid Rice, who had a great game in this game, I wasn't really impressed with anybody. Mahomes had a few throws that he missed in this game. Like, this is not the best Chiefs team that we've seen. It's really their defense that's holding them together. And Chris Jones is starting to look a little bit older. So I think, like, the Chiefs, this is a game that the Colts could have won very easily, and they had the moment to win the game had they not blown it in the fourth quarter. So I should be very concerned if I'm a Colts fan. Sorry, Pat McAfee, but I think you kind of lost your chance. If you win this game, you probably win your division. With this loss, I think that they could potentially miss the playoffs. Honest to God.
Yeah, but it'll be tough. I think the Colts and the Chargers will be the two teams that might be the odd man out here, but we'll preview the playoff picture. But moving on to maybe one of the most entertaining games of the week. How about the Lions and the Giants? Jameer
Yes.
Gibbs explodes for over 264 total yards. He had 55 fantasy points. He ices the game with a perfect run in overtime. And why is it perfect? He ran 69 yards to get the touchdown, and he is
Nice.
only the second player to rush for over 200 yards and have 10 catches in a game in NFL history. And this guy is already ranking. He's on pace. I believe he's top 5 as far as touchdowns at his age, and he's on pace to break that record at this point. So Jameer Gibbs has been an absolute machine. He had 3 touchdowns in this game, and last game, every time he touched the ball against Philadelphia, good things happen. And they're like, you know what? If our offensive struggling, we don't have that extra weapon with explosivity and Sam Laporta to create a big play. Why don't we just give the ball to Gibby? And sometimes if you're in a funk, just give it to your best player and good things will happen. And that's exactly what happened. And then on the other end, Jameis Winston having one of the most electric games. The flea flicker touchdown pass was amazing, a absolute dart. And then the touchdown run from Jameis Winston, shocking everybody at Ford Field. This is probably one of the most entertaining NFL games of all time.
This game was the quintessential Jameis Winston game. And maybe, we have a few viewers on the live. Maybe you guys can break down what an ideal Jameis Winston stat line looks like. Because for me, he has to have over 350 yards. He has to throw for multiple touchdowns, have multiple turnovers. And in this game, he only had one pick, so maybe it doesn't classify too much. But that catch, that flea flicker touchdown was the great. This is what reinvigorated my love for the game again. I'm reminded each week, but this was my favorite moment of the week. A Jameis Winston receiving touchdown. Who had that on their bingo card? Jameis Winston. I don't care what Jameis does. I don't even care where Jameis Winston plays. But we need to sign a mandate to make Jameis Winston start every game for somebody. And that was proposed. I saw it on, I think, Barstool. But they proposed you pay him $15 million and he can play for any team, anytime. Somebody's hurt, you just put him in and he'll play for any team because there is nobody who is more electric and more jumping off the screen than Jameis Winston. Is he the best quarterback? No. Is he my favorite quarterback? Yes. The heart that he brings, the excitement, the goofiness, he is everything I want in my quarterback. So shout out to Jameis. Even though they were eliminated from playoff contention today, that is okay because we had a great game. And then the Lions, they fought back. Jahmyr Gibbs carried the team on his back. Amon-Ra had a big game. Not the best game from Jared Goff, but their offense is still humming. So I give credit there, but probably the best game of the week, I would say, between Jameis and what we saw from the Lions. Gets me really excited for Thanksgiving. We'll cover that later, but peak football.
Yeah, peak football there. And then the Lions, their offense, they've kind of been in a funk here. We'll see if they can pull out of it. We'll get to them Thursday. That'll be a big test for them and the Packers. And speaking of the Packers, again, we'll talk about the Packers Thursday because let's be honest, you beat the Vikings and JJ McCarthy is now doing his best Justin Fields impression without the running. So he's like Justin Fields without the athletic ability. Is this what we're doing? Number 9. He has the number 9 personality. Like he has one of the most cringe things. You sent me like the video of him doing like the jumping jack and his hat fell off. He was doing like a hype dance and then his hat fell off. Like negative aura for JJ McCarthy there. And then the Vikings, I don't know. They have way too much talent on offense for him to be this bad. And it's definitely not the coaching because Sam Darnold had a great year. Kirk Cousins at one point had 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions with the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't want to shit all over this guy too much because he is a rookie, but Minnesota Vikings fans are not happy. I believe I saw someone say it is crazy how well Tom Brady is sugarcoating how ass this guy is. Real quote from a Vikings fan.
12 of 19, 52 total yards, 2 picks, sacked 5 times. I mean, every time I've seen J.J. McCarthy, outside of that one game against the Bears for one half, he's been bad every other quarter, and he's thrown an interception in every single game. And so it gets to a point where you're throwing, for every touchdown, you're throwing 2 picks at this point, or 2 turnovers at this point. Like, how much longer can this experiment go on? Because the best of the Vikings have looked all season is when Carson Wentz was your quarterback. A guy that, to be honest, peaked in 2017. Like, that was the peak of the Vikings. And what's the most frustrating is I look at their defense. Like, their defense held their own. They couldn't really stop Emmanuel Wilson, but they contained the passing game really well. They held the Jordan Love to 140 passing yards. So they were able to stop the passing game. But ultimately, it came down to like J.J. McCarthy. And you show how the valuable position is for the quarterback. It's like with J.J. McCarthy playing as bad as he is, we're seeing Justin Jefferson, who might not even finish with over 1,000 receiving yards potentially. Everybody's having their career lows. Like, this is ugly. And I think the best thing that the Vikings can do is just cut your losses. Like, don't try to make this work. If you can't work with Kevin Stefanski, with Kevin O'Connell, then it's not going to work. Like, he's one of the best coaches in the league. You have the best receiver in the league, arguably. You have a great tight end. It can work with the Vikings. You can make it work with Sam Darnold. You can make it work with anybody. So I think you just cut your losses with J.J. McCarthy. Enough is enough.
Yeah, 9's in the chat if you're still with us for JJ McCarthy's alter ego. If you're feeling energetic, if you're excited for Thanksgiving football, 9's in the chat for number 9. And then another game that's potentially in the running for game of the week. How about Bears and Steelers? The Bears, they have this guy on their team named DJ Moore, and I feel like this is at the precipice of every single fantasy owner who's in a 10 or 8-man league cutting DJ Moore, and then suddenly he shows up and has 2 touchdowns in this game. And then you look at this team with Colston Loveland at tight end. Okay, that guy's a beast. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. We still have Cole Kmet, who's been one of the most underrated tight ends in the NFL. We have Monungai now. We have D Swift. We have an elite special teams, especially with Duvernay now. He's been elite for the Chicago Bears. Their defense has played well enough at the end of games where they've been able to get a stop every single time that they needed to, albeit against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I like just seeing Caleb Williams getting sacked in the end zone, TJ Watt passing his older brother. Now he has the most sacks for any Watt. Congratulations to him, over 115 sacks. But just seeing Caleb Williams and the Bears now overcome some adversity against a team in the Steelers that's kind of on a skid at this point, but the Bears are showing that they're probably gonna make the playoffs. They have racked up enough wins, and they've shown that they do have some mental toughness now. They have a little bit of resilience here, and this is the best Chicago Bears team we've seen in a while. And even when we did see the Bears make the playoffs with Mitchell Trubisky, Khalil Mack, that was because they had one of the best defenses in the NFL that year, if not the best defense. But now their offense is actually, dare I say, enjoyable to watch, which is something you have not been able to say about the Bears ever.
Yeah. Honestly, for the Bears, this is probably the best Bears team we've ever seen, dare I say. Now, granted, that really just is comparing it to the 2018 team. But that being said, like Caleb Williams is on track to be the first quarterback in their history to have 4,000 yards. That's a big accomplishment for Cleveland, for Chicago. And you have an effective run game. DeAndre Swift can get going at any time. Monungai has been a big hit for you guys. And you guys have good receivers. Like DJ Moore, I think, at some points I feel like they don't utilize him enough. He's a great receiver. Roma Dunze has been really good for them. But like with this game, it shows to me like the moments that we would see Chicago choke in these big moments in the past, we're seeing them overcome that. We had that one meltdown against the Vikings in week 1, but other than that, they've had times where they've been down 10 points, they come back and win it. They've had moments where they're the ones making the stops to end the game. So Chicago has shown resiliency, and they've shown that they're not the same old Bears that they've been. So I give a lot of credit to them. If you want to put Ben Johnson in the Coach of the Year candidacy, I think it's very fair, especially with what we've seen with the ascendance of Caleb Williams being a lot better, a lot more polished, a lot more confident as a quarterback. So I really like what I've seen from the Bears. And I don't know how far they go in the playoffs, but I think that they can win a playoff game depending on who they match up with.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too, especially since they get demolished so bad by the Lions. The first time they met, Lions are struggling a little bit now, so I'm really interested to see how that rematch goes. And at this point for the Bears, the thing I like about them the most is 2 of their best weapons are big tight ends that are both athletic and can block for the run game. And I would argue that Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland are the best tight end duo in the league for the Chicago Bears. And the fact that they forgot that they had DJ Moore and then he was just wide open in this game, starting to blow the offense open. I still think this Bears team potentially has another level to go to. And Caleb Williams just needs to not be awful, and he needs to maybe just limit the turnovers to 1 or 2 a game, and you should be fine. And it's just not even if he turns the ball over, it's just when he turns the ball over. Just don't do it at the end of the game or in the fourth quarter. But this is a team that shown they can make up a deficit, and I'm excited to see that rematch with the Packers, and I'm also excited to see the rematch with the Lions this year. They'll tell us a lot about this team. Um, Speaking of, it's not a rematch. I don't know why I said that, but the Seahawks and Titans. The Titans, they showed up in Nashville. They had a game on their home turf, and the Seattle Seahawks. Really, all there is to say about this game is Jackson Smith and Jigba had 167 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns. He's now the all-time leader in a single season for the Seattle Seahawks. And we mentioned this in the top 5, but he is now on pace for over 2,000 Receiving yards, you heard that right. He is on pace for over 2,000 receiving yards. And then just seeing how awful DK Metcalf has been in Pittsburgh, I get he's had some moments, but he has not shown up when they've needed him. He has not shown up in the clutch. And then on the flip side, you look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, who now might at some point be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. And then you look at Mike McDonald as the head coach going out to trade for Rashid Shaheed, that defense for Seattle at this point. I mean, the Seahawks look like they won that divorce by a high margin. And now, when you have a receiver who can go for over 2,000 yards with Sam Darnold as his quarterback,
Yeah, I mean, respect to Jackson Smith and Jigba. One of the players that I was wrong entering the season. I didn't believe that he could be a top receiver in the league. Certainly didn't think he was going to be the best receiver in the league. Boy, was I wrong. And I can admit when I'm wrong because it's so few and so far between. But JSN has been amazing. He's on track for 2,000. But I also want to shout out Sam Darnold because he's had a rough journeyman. You know, he played for the Jets, looked terrible, went to Carolina, struggled. Then he goes to Minnesota, reinvigorates his career with Kevin O'Connell. And then when he leaves Minnesota, we're like, oh, well, he's still Sam Darnold. He had this season, but this is a magical year. Everything went his way. I think they were 11-0 in one-score games. So was Sam Darnold the guy that we thought he was going to be in Minnesota, or going back to the old Sam Darnold? And I would say that he's been just as good as he's been in Minnesota as he's been in Seattle. 19 touchdowns, which is fifth in the league. He's sixth in passing yards. He's sixth in QBR. He's been a top 10 quarterback this year statistically. A lot of credit to him. Credit to the GMs for the Seattle Seahawks. Credit for them for not just leaning on Kenneth Walker, but also showing Zach Charbonnet, sharing the backfield together. That's been great for them. Picking up the Cooper Kupps of the world and Rashid Shaheeds, plus with their defense. The Seahawks team, I think, can genuinely go far and potentially make the NFC title game.
yeah, and the thing with him and JSN is that a receiver like JSN who relies on that deep ball, you really have to rely on your quarterback to get it to the ball. And just some of the throws that Sam Darnold has made, just dropping it in the bucket for Jackson Smith and Jigba so he can just keep running in stride down the field past his defender. I think that's really been Sam Darnold's biggest strength this year. It's just his ability to throw the deep ball, especially with him and JSN. He's had one of the best deep balls in the league this year, especially in Seattle with that defense. I feel like they're going to give the Rams a tough time. It was a field goal game after he turned it over 4 times. So I think the Seattle team will be dangerous here. So definitely credit to Sam Darnold. Credit to your head coach as well, Mike McDonald's been a great ride so far for the Seattle Seahawks. Let's get this game away because it hasn't been a good ride for either team, but the Saints with Tyler Shuck took on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins threw a 49-yard touchdown, which is the longest touchdown pass that the Atlanta Falcons have had so far this year. And just in time for them to kind of officially be eliminated from the playoffs, not quite mathematically eliminated, but now that you're pretty much have no shot of winning your division. You have no shot of making a wild card spot. Your team just lost their starting quarterback. Now they decide, you know what? We're going to start winning games because what is better after you have no shot at redemption than losing out on a higher draft pick? I think that's what we'll do for Atlanta. And they go out there, beat the Saints. For the Saints, I've never seen a team try so hard to not score points in this game. I mean, how many times did they just not punch it in the end zone? But the Falcons, I feel like they're just going to win a couple games, play themselves out of a top 10 draft pick.
Oh, they absolutely will. I'll look at their schedule in a second, but the Saints, again, I had them in the worst top 5. I don't want to bully the Saints. They're a team that are clearly in rebuild. Alvin Kamara got banged up. He's probably out for quite some time. Chris Olave is still great. Jawan Johnson's been an underrated tight end, but this goes to the Falcons. Kirk Cousins comes out of retirement, comes out of his Hall of Fame career, goes and plays a good game for the Falcons. Credit to him. Bijan Robinson does Bijan Robinson things. But now I look at their schedule. They face the Saints again. They face the Jets next week. And then they also face the Cardinals. So I see 3 more wins on their radar. That's going to put them at 7-10. That's going to put them somewhere in the middle, top 10 to top 15 pick potentially, but not somewhere where they can get an actual quarterback. Sorry, Michael Penix. You're not the answer. I have a feeling that they're going to pick 8th because historically they've picked 8th, what I feel like has been every single year over the last like 5 years. So if I had to predict it, if I had Kelce, I would say the Falcons would be the 8th overall pick. But yeah, the Falcons, they're going to play themselves out of a top pick. And Kirk Cousins is going to be fun to watch, but this team they're not going anywhere. They're not making the playoffs.
No. And then, we have a couple more games on the 1 o'clock slate to get out of the way. The Ravens and the Jets. The Jets score 10 points. Offense looks hard. Surprise, surprise. They're 2-9. Who would have saw that coming? And then the Ravens, their offense still is kind of middling down the road. Lamar Jackson hasn't been practicing. They kind of just needed him to come back so they had a chance to win their division. Now they're in the division lead. They play the Steelers 2 more times. So they pretty much have the division wrapped up if they can beat Cincinnati twice. But Derrick Henry has 2 touchdowns in this game. They take care of business against the Jets. And really, their season is going to depend on what they do Thursday night because the Bengals have Joe Burrow coming back. So the Ravens and the Bengals, I believe, play each other twice at the end of the year. So if the Bengals beat them, they technically have a shot of winning the division if they win out.
Yeah, there is an outside chance. It's going to be interesting. The Ravens, it feels to me like Lamar is still banged up pretty heavily. You could kind of tell in this game wasn't the normal mobile Lamar Jackson self. But they get a win. The Jets, they finally benched Justin Fields. So you finally saw passing yards over 50 in this game for the Jets. Tyrod Taylor, respectable backup quarterback historically, but I won't glaze them too much. The Jets are the Jets, but the Ravens, they get a much needed win. They're now in the division lead. They control their destiny. They have the Bengals on Thanksgiving. If they can win that game, I think that they win that division. And I still think if you get Lamar to full strength, that this team is still very much capable of going on a playoff run as long as they can get over the hump in the playoffs. But I still believe in this Ravens team crawling back from the dead. They are resilient, so I'll give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, and then also giving credit where credit is due. The Jaguars have now gone on a little bit of a run here. They're 7-4. They're only a game back behind the Indianapolis Colts, who they play twice to finish the season. So it's going to be a very wild ride if you are following the AFC South here. But Trevor Lawrence, he throws 3 interceptions and he throws 3 touchdowns in this game. But seemed like the Jaguars at this point were just refusing to lose. You have Strange with 5 catches for 93 yards. You have Washington, who's coming alive for you, looking like a real weapon with 71 yards in this one. Jacoby Myers picking up big third downs for this team. Also, Travis Etienne looking like a solid weapon again. He kind of went through a tough year last year, kind of finding his way. Was he the guy? Was Tank Bigsby the guy? But now it seems like their offense has an identity. And even though Trevor did turn it over 3 times, you still did beat the Cardinals in Arizona. And the Cardinals have played pretty well with Jacoby Brissett. I feel like Jacoby Brissett, especially for a backup coming in, has been fine here through for 49 attempts again. Sorry, he didn't complete 45 passes, but he threw it almost 50 times in this game. So overall, I thought it was a solid win for the Jaguars, and now they're going to be in a deadlock with the Texans and the Colts to finish the year.
Yeah, Jaguars, they played hard. Wasn't a great Trevor Lawrence game. He had 4 total turnovers if you count the fumble. Pretty ugly game for Trevor Lawrence, probably as ugly as it gets. But I do want to shout out Jacoby Myers, kind of an underrated pickup at the deadline. People kind of scoffed at it, but he's been a guy that's made big plays when it matters. He's getting first downs for them. So he's been a nice addition, especially with BTJ being injured, but Travis Etienne doing his thing. For the Cardinals, this is a team that I think we watch out for come next year. Because if they can get their quarterback right, I think the Cardinals can be a fun team. I don't think their head coach is the right guy, but it shows with Jacoby Brissett. They have weapons. Michael Wilson played a great game. They didn't have Marvin Harrison in this game. You still have arguably the best tight end in football in Trey McBride. The quarterback solution for them, we'll figure out whether that's in the draft or if they want to go after a veteran. But the Cardinals are not as bad as their record shows, and I'll give them credit there. I've been very harsh for them this season, but their defense can make stops. They have enough talent defensively. If they can get their quarterback right, because Kyler's clearly not going to come back, then I think this could be a fun team. They just happen to be in the hardest division in the NFL, so that doesn't play well for them. But credit to them. They've played hard. They've been in a lot of close games, so I'll give them credit there.
But yeah, credit to Jacksonville surviving 4 turnovers for Trevor Lawrence. Definitely impressive there. And then we move over to the Patriots and Bengals to close out the 1 o'clock slate. Drake May, career high, 294 passing yards. Couldn't quite get past 300 yards. He has a touchdown, an interception. Not an amazing game from him. The Patriots kind of struggled in this game. They got down 10 points, and then we saw Hunter Henry reemerge in this game with 10 targets, by far more than double than any other receiver on this team. And then he got 2 touchdowns as well, or he had one of them taken away. So he had 1 touchdown this game, but averaged 16 yards per catch. Patriots just go on the road, take care of business. We've seen games like this from them before where they kind of just have to scrape and crawl. You have a couple tough injuries as well, which seem like it kind of just demoralized the team a little bit on the sideline.
Yeah, Will Campbell, he could be out for at least 4 games. He might not come back to the playoffs. That's a big loss. He's been really good for them, but I give him credit. They scraped out the win. It wasn't the sexiest win by any means, but ultimately it came down to how you played them in the second half. You held them to just 7 points in the second half. You scraped by, you got your win, and that's what matters in the NFL. I still believe pretty heavily on Travion Henderson. I think he's emerging as a star for them. Hunter Henry has always been very solid for him. So credits to the Patriots. A win is a win, but definitely not their best game by any means.
Not their best game. Really, not too much to say about them. They went ahead, won this game. Not every win is going to be a blowout, but the Bengals were desperate in this game. And, they still have some pretty good players. And in Cincinnati, it's a tough place to play in November. So good job for the Patriots for getting the win. But that brings us to the Philadelphia Eagles, who went up 21-0. Looked like they were about to run over the Cowboys in Jerry World. I'm like, yep, this is exactly what happens when the Dallas Cowboys play a team with a winning record. And then I see Dak Prescott coming back and stat padding. I'm like, this is exactly what Dak does. This is hilarious. And then we saw both of these teams do everything in their power to try to lose, whether it was a fumble on a punt return with one of the most vicious hits I have ever seen with the Dallas Cowboys, just knocking the punt returner's head off. And then you get the ball towards the end zone, whether it was the Eagles not converting on 4th down, whether it was Jalen Hurts completely disappearing in the second half. But it seemed like both teams were trying their best to lose this game. We saw even Brandon Aubrey miss a kick. After I saw that, I'm like, this is going to be a long day for Dallas when your best player, arguably on your team, and Brandon Aubrey is missing kicks. But then we see one of the best catches I've ever seen from George Pickens over 2 defenders. And what this game reminds everyone of is George Pickens, probably one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. How about this? 9 targets for 9 catches. Every
Amazing.
single ball thrown his way was caught. And then he goes for 146 receiving yards and a touchdown. This was a game that CeeDee Lamb had a lot of drops, and CeeDee Lamb is starting to have some drops issues where Dak is just putting it in his hands and dropping it. So this Cowboys offense explodes in this game, but Philadelphia just having some of these weird meltdowns. We also saw this in the Broncos game, and kind of we've seen times in the past where the Eagles just can't score in the second half. So does this game worry you that when they hit the playoffs, they're going to start to have some Super Bowl hangover set in once we get into December and January?
Yeah, I am concerned about their offense. Their defense speaks for itself. Their defense is great, but their offense, I don't like the rift between AJ Brown and what feels like the entire Eagles offense. It feels like when they feed AJ Brown, it's when their offense sucks the most, which doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm not an NFL GM or coach, so maybe that's why. But I would think that that would make them better. But when AJ Brown gets fed, it feels like the rest of the team suffers because of it. But then if he doesn't get the ball and they win, he also complains. So they're in a really tough spot. And then not only that, I am concerned now about Saquon Barkley. Like now I think it's time we press the panic button because we're now 11 games into the season and he's averaging 3.7 yards per carry. He has 680 rushing yards, and he hasn't really looked amazing. He's had one game over 100 yards to this point. So I am a little concerned. He is entering age 29 earlier, later this year. So I am a little concerned there. But my other thing is like, why is their offense struggling? You have Saquon, you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae, you have Jalen Hurts, who's a top 5 quarterback. Why is your offense struggling? That's a question that I have. When I talk about the Cowboys, though, George Pickens is amazing. We know that. I've been a big fan of him for a long time. Crawling back, getting the comeback. Credit to the Cowboys. Give them the flowers as they do. But I also want to count their defense as well, because for the Cowboys, a lot of people clown that Micah Parsons trade. It looks like they might have won that divorce potentially. The additions that they made, getting Quentin Williams has been a big addition for them. Kenny Clark has been good for them. And they've been good at stopping the run so far. So you know what? The Cowboys, they're looking pretty fun. Their offense is good. Their defense has played a lot better recently. I give credits to them as well.
Yeah, no, we'll see on Thursday. If you can beat Kansas City at home, you have a real shot of making the playoffs. But pretty much the Chiefs and the Cowboys are in win or go home mode. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. It just sucks that they have the tie right now, but they're officially 5-5-1. How much more mid can you get? I'm not sure. But Dallas, definitely a fun game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This was their second time in franchise history that they've come back from being down 21-0. Another interesting stat there. But then we move on to the next two games, which were pretty much just slaughters from front to back. The Rams drop 28 points in the first half, pretty much have to pull the mercy rule on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for Tampa, looks like their injuries are just catching up to them, and we can cover the 49ers and the Panthers game kind of in conjunction with this, because at this point, it just seems like whoever makes it out of the NFC South is just going to get completely obliterated in the first round. This doesn't look like the frisky Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I get we may have Bucky Irving back at some point, but their defense at this point is just getting shredded week in and week out. You had the Bills game last week where Josh Allen gets 6 touchdowns after the Texans don't allow him to get any. And then now you allow Matthew Stafford to shred you for 3 touchdowns in the first half. They pretty much rest their starters in the second half here. So then Carolina is just not a serious team. Even though they're 6-6, even though they have been fun, they've looked better. They're not a team that you're going to, oh my God, I can't believe we have to play the Panthers. Like, oh, thank goodness. And you're probably going to play Seattle in the first round, or you're going to play the 49ers in the first round. It's like you're not going to do well against either of those teams.
No. So I'll talk about the Bucks and Rams game first. The saddest part for me in this game was not only were the Bucks getting eviscerated in this game, but then Baker gets hurt. He throws a dart at the end of the first half, pops his shoulder. He might be out some time. Teddy Bridgewater sighting. That was fun to see. Haven't seen him in a while. Didn't know he still played football. Coming out of his high school head coaching career, it seems like. But Bucks, they kind of remind me a little bit of the Lions of last year, where injuries just eviscerated that defense. A defense that was once promising, it just feels like it's just not going to be that team anymore. Never mind the fact of all the injuries you've had to the Mike Evans of the world, Chris Godwins of the world, and then obviously Bucky Irving. Sadly, even if they make the playoffs, they are probably going to go in the first round, which is sad to see. Rams obviously are great. But this Panthers and Niners game, the Niners were begging the Panthers to do something in this game. Brock Purdy has 3 ugly interceptions in the first half. We think, oh, maybe this is the game that the Panthers go and beat go and beat them. But they just kept giving the ball back to the 49ers. They had 2 picks in this game. We had a fumble in this game. And the Panthers, the problem I have with the Panthers, they're a fun team to watch, but what team do we get each and every week? Last week, we saw him throw for 450 yards. This game, he musters 160. I just don't know what Bryce Young I get every week. I don't know which Panthers team I get every week. And that's probably my biggest complaint with the Panthers.
Yeah, and I think this is a team though that's overachieving, especially with Dave Canales. And it's pretty much they've been a team where every other week they're gonna win a game. they're going to lose to most of the playoff teams that they play, and then they're going to play tough and then beat all of the teams that they should. So this is a team that's just like very average. They're overachieving with kind of the talent on their roster. You're getting the most out of Bryce Young that I feel like any coach possibly could. So for the Panthers, I feel like it's just going to be tough because they might make the playoffs, especially if Baker Mayfield is hurt just by default, and then get absolutely annihilated by Seattle or LA or San Francisco in the first round. So that will definitely be tough. And then the Niners, you won, I guess. You're 8-4, which is impressive with how injured this team is. It was nice that we saw a Christian McCaffrey sighting. He had 89 yards rushing, and then he had another 50 yards catching, so over 130 total yards for him. So he's had a little bit of a better season than Saquon Barkley. I mean, you want to talk about George Pickens, 9 targets, 9 receptions. Christian McCaffrey, 7 targets, 7 receptions in this game. And then Brock Purdy trying to get George Kittle involved as well. But I just really, the problem with the 49ers, I don't think their offense is dynamic enough to take them further than maybe one playoff win in the playoffs, especially Jawan Jennings is a villain at this point. He's BB Netanyahu. And then Ricky Pearsall. The most interesting stat about Ricky Pearsall is that he got shot and then that he got an injury and missed 6 weeks. They're like, he got shot and missed 6 weeks last year due to an armed robbery. And then he had an injury and missed the first 6 weeks of this year. Like, okay, can you tell me a stat about him that makes me excited about him? Like, no, he got shot. That's the interesting stat about him. Like, okay, well, that doesn't really translate to, going deep in the playoffs. And then we have Luke Farrell, who's still around, who had a catch for 3 yards. And then outside of McCaffrey and Jawan Jennings and George Kittle, everyone else had one catch.
Yeah. I think the Niners, it's fun. I mean, I think they're scrappy, and I think the reason they're 8-4 has to do with Kyle Shanahan. He's in that coach of the year conversation as well. This team has been eviscerated with injuries. We've had the Nick Bosa's of the world out for the season, Fred Warner's, Kittle's missed some time, Brock Purdy missed some time as well, and they're still 8-4. That's a credit to Kyle Shanahan. I'll give him credit there. Christian McCaffrey leads the league in in receptions and carries, which is the first time that's happened in NFL history. So Christian McCaffrey cementing himself as arguably the greatest running back, or at least receiving back of all time, arguably, at least in our generation. And they keep winning games, and I give them credit there because their defense, I mean, they stopped the Panthers very convincingly. They held Rico Doidle, who's been insane all year for them, to 38 yards. They made Bryce Young uncomfortable in the pocket. So it's really been their defense. And the fact that they've lost 2 of their best players and they're still that good defensively, credits to them. But I do agree. Their offense is one-dimensional. Brock Purdy did not play a good game, and they still got the win. So I'll give credit to the Niners there, but I don't think they're legitimate, and I think they probably don't win a playoff game.
Yeah, and I don't really think they'll win a playoff game either. You're probably going to match up against probably the winner of the NFC North, if I had to guess, who will probably be the 3 seed. So that would be definitely a tough matchup there. If you're the 7 seed, you're probably going to face up against the Eagles, maybe. Yeah, so you're either going to face like the Eagles, which maybe you win that game solely on coaching. So that could be a matchup potentially, but if you're going to face like the Bears, Packers, and Lions, definitely think those would be tough matchups. But that is every single game. A lot to recap from week 12 of the NFL season. It is flying by. And now we're going to give you a grade for every single NFL team this year. That's right. We're going to cover all 32 teams, give them a quick grade, quick thoughts so far on how they've done so far this season based on their expectations, not necessarily on just their record. And I say, let's get the bad out of the way first. Maybe the worst division in the NFL at this point, the NFC South. The Saints.
I mean, for expectations, I'll say a D, but they've been an F. Like, they've just been bad. They've played competitively for what kind of roster they have, but I think a D is a fair grade. They're not a good team.
Yeah, I give them an M for mercy rule at this point. I mean, I watched them try so hard on Sunday. It's like, at least you try hard. You go up there against the Atlanta Falcons. It's a tough divisional game. You're just not really good at anything. You have Tyler Shuck. You have Spencer Rattler earlier this year. It's just been a tough season all around. You're in cap hell. So I give them an M just for mercy rule here. But the Falcons, I will not give you a mercy rule because you've been disappointing. And this team, you can't give them anything other than an F. I mean, Kirk Cousins comes in and immediately has the longest touchdown pass that you've had all season, and he's only played in 1.5 games. Soon as Michael Penix goes down, you start playing, dare I say, smart football, which is interesting with the Atlanta Falcons. But I give you an F because now I think you're going to win a bunch of games that's going to play you out of a top 10 draft pick, and you're not going to necessarily get the help you need. Give you an F, especially because Kyle Pitts still hasn't shown up yet. He still hasn't been that prospect. We see like glimpses of Kyle Pitts where maybe this will be the year. Don't be fooled. Like every year, some
Fool's
fantasy owners like, oh, I'm gonna take Kyle Pitts. I think this is the year he's really gonna do it because now they actually have like their quarterback solidified. Like,
Do they?
no.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them an F for fool's gold. Cam Newton, maybe he meant to talk about the Falcons when he called that to Drake May. The Falcons are fool's gold. Between Kyle Pitts, the epitome of fool's gold for any fantasy owner the last 5 years. You have Drake London that's banged up. Bijan Robinson, he's played good this season, but ultimately Michael Penix, he's out for the season. He hasn't been great for them. Their defense is underwhelming. Raheem Morris, not the guy in Atlanta. So I give them an F for fool's gold. And Flowers Pod agrees with us. So thank you, Flowers Pod, for tuning in again. He has been a regular on the show, so he deserves it. He deserves a
Nines in
shout
the
out.
chat for Flowers Pod. Give him a 9 for that alter ego there, for Flowers Pod there. And then the Panthers, I give them a C for coin flip. Yeah, he is a bust. I agree. And I give them a 9. I give them a C for coin flip for the Panthers because they're 6-6 at this point. And I feel like they've kind of passed expectations. We picked them to go 8-9 heading into the year, so they're kind of just on pace with that, kind of just passing. And then week to week, what are we gonna get? I don't know. But you're 2-1 in your division, 4-3 in conference, but just not overwhelmingly impressive.
Yeah, they're a gritty team. I'll give them a G for gritty. They're 6-6. I think they're going to match up with our record prediction of 8-9 perfectly. Maybe they go 9-8 as we predicted. But Bryce Young, inconsistent at best. We love Tedder McMillan. He had a tough game on Monday night, dropped a few balls there. But it's just a team that is not quite there yet. They're inconsistent, and I think ultimately, maybe I give them an I for inconsistent. I just don't know which team I get in, but they're right in that division mix right now with Tampa Bay, so maybe they win the division.
Yeah, you give them a I for inconsistent. I give them a C for coin flip. I was saving my I grade for Tampa Bay, and you stole it from me because I for injury. I mean, we have Bucky Irving, who got hurt. Your entire wide receiver core was injured at this point. Abuka got hurt. Godwin got hurt. Mike Evans got hurt. And now Baker Mayfield is injured, and we had to watch Teddy Bridgewater, Big Teddy himself, come out on Sunday Night Football versus the Rams there. So I give them a I for injury.
Well, I would use I as well, but I'm going to use O for ouch because of what you mentioned. Injuries all across, defensively, offensively. The gas station has been sidelined for far too long. Hopefully he returns this upcoming week. But ouch, injury.
The Green Party. The Green Party has silenced the gas station. No more fossil fuels.
Yes, Tampa, and it sucks because I love Baker Mayfield. I love Bucky Irving. I love everything that they have in Tampa, but it just feels like similar to the Lions last year with all of their injuries stacking up right around playoff time. I just don't think they're going to go very far.
Yeah. No, I definitely think they'll be a one and done team, whoever wins this division, but we'll see. And then we move over to the NFC East. We have at number 4, the Giants, who, I mean, I'll give them a J for Jameis is entertaining, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to give them an S for swag. Even though they're bad, even though they're eliminated from a playoff contention, between Jameis, Cam Scatterbo, and Jackson Dart this year, this is a fun team. This is a team to look out for next year. But this year, they're just not that team. You can also give them an E for eliminated. First team to get eliminated out of playoff contention, unfortunately. But I think they're building a lot of good things here. I will give them an S for swag.
Yeah, I was saving my S grade for the Commanders because they're S for sad.
I give them an S for sorry. I give him a T for Trump, who will name their stadium after him. Yeah, not much to say about the Commanders. Sophomore slump, maybe. Not really necessarily because Jaden Daniels has been banged up, but I would just say fall from grade. There's a lot of grades you can give the Commanders, but it's not really fair because they've been banged up. They've had a lot of injuries, not a lot of luck their way. So I don't even know if it's fair to grade them poorly at this point.
Yeah, that's why like S for sad. It's like I can't really be too hard on them, especially with the injuries here. Jaden Daniels is out, so we'll see. And then also the Jaden Daniels injury is also sad. And then we have the Cowboys. I will give them a M because this team is a mystery to me. At one point, you had CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and your offense looked horrendous when you went on a stretch and played teams like the Denver Broncos. And then you go out there against the Eagles and you tie a franchise record for a 21-point comeback. And yes, I do agree the Giants could be a playoff team next year, especially with Scatterbo coming back with Jackson Dart. They both look good, but I do think the Cowboys are kind of just a mystery. Overall, this was the first team all year that they beat with a winning record. Before that, they were 0-5-1 here. So this team that has an outside shot of making the playoffs, but you're still pretty far behind the Lions at this point. You're a game and a half back. And then also you'd be competing with the 49ers as well. So I don't think they'll be able to get there.
I'm going to give them an R for roller coaster because just like with roller coasters, it's a fun ride. After a while, you get a little sick, but it's been a bit of a coin toss. You had the 40-40 tie. Their offense has been electric. What an addition for George Pickens it's been for them. Javonte Williams has been also a great addition for the Cowboys, but it's been a roller coaster. On one end, you have this tie with the Packers. You have this 40-37 masterclass with the Giants, but then you get blown up by the Broncos and you lose to the Panthers and you lose to the Cardinals. You get blown up by the Bears, but then you beat the Eagles and maybe everything is good. You blow out the Raiders, maybe things good. It's a roller coaster, and by the end of the season, we're probably all going to be throwing up. So, Cowboys, I give them an R.
And then the division leader, the Philadelphia Eagles, I give them a C for concerned. Like, are we a little bit
Yeah.
concerned about the Eagles' offense? You blow a 21-point lead. You also are the team, or you lost to Bo Nix, which kind of energized the Denver Broncos season. So that was a pretty bad loss that you had against the Denver Broncos. And that was also in Philadelphia. I guess this was a divisional game against the Cowboys, but it's just too many times I've seen the Philadelphia Eagles stall out. So I'm a little bit just concerned about them going into the playoffs if they have to face off against a team like the Rams here. So maybe they're kind of just treading water until they get into the playoffs and they'll turn it up right now. But I just don't like kind of just the energy around their offense right now.
I'm going to put T for tension. There's something in that building there. I'm assuming it's A.J. Brown. I don't know if it's other teams there. Treading water is another thing that we can use with that T word, but treading water, tension, it just feels like even though they're winning games, it just feels like they're on the verge of some sort of meltdown. And I have a feeling A.J. Brown has a few more games left in his Philly career before he's traded, but something feels wrong here. I'm putting T for tension.
But yeah, I'm a little bit neutral on the Eagles right now as far as their chances. But let's move over as we build and get better and better in the AFC. This isn't quite the best division, but the NFC North, as Flowers Pod mentioned before, JJ McCarthy, number 9, is a bust. Nine's in the chat for 9. But they are 4-7. It's kind of just a easy F for the Vikings at this point, especially with JJ McCarthy. How about I give you a negative 87 for all of the passing yards that JJ McCarthy had on Sunday when you have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones, and Jordan Naylor, too.
Yeah, F for failure, everything around. JJ McCarthy, massive bust. You took him 10th overall. He hasn't panned out, and it's not looking pretty. I didn't believe him coming out of Michigan, and I was right, I suppose. Victory lap for the Brickyard. But he's been the part, I feel like he's been the guy that's derailed this team. Justin Jefferson might not even have 1,000 yards this year. For a guy as talented as him, that's a tragedy. But their defense has been solid, so I hope that they get the right quarterback next year because they could very well be in the mix. But unfortunately, they're going to be the lame duck in that division.
Yeah, they'll be the lame duck because the Lions are 7-4, half a game back behind the Packers right now. They have a big showdown on Thanksgiving, but the Lions, it's been tough for them. But I guess like expectation wise, like for this quarter, I give them a C plus. Like I still believe in the Lions, I still believe in their talent, but just the connection of Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff has looked a little bit off. Jared Goff has taken some big hits the past few games. So honestly, like Jared Goff does look a little bit banged up. You lost Sam Laporta. He's on injured reserve right now, but something's kind of just off with this team right now. I don't know if it's just their we've been good for a couple of years itis for the Detroit Lions, but let me know if you still believe in the Lions in the comments. I'm not like jumping off the bandwagon yet, but definitely something is a little. It's not clicking all the way as it should.
I'll give them a B minus. Like they're still 7-4. They're still in the playoff mix. Their defense has looked a lot better, but I also feel like their offense has taken a slight step back. You are still seeing those 30-point outputs, but I think part of that has to do with how great Jahmyr Gibbs has been. Jared Goff maybe taking a very slight step back this year, but I still think they're in the mix. I still think they can make the playoffs, and in the playoffs, I think they're a team to be reckoned with. But when I think about them against the Rams, I think the Rams probably take care of business. And against the Eagles, I think they probably fall to them as well. These other teams, maybe it gets interesting, but I just think I just don't think they're the perennial, contender that they've been the last couple of years, and that's unfortunate for them.
Yeah, and then the Packers, 7-3-1. How about an E for eyesore every time I watch this team play?
I'm giving them an F for frauds. They are the most fraudulent 7-3-1 team in maybe NFL history. I don't know what to get from Jordan Love. Jordan Love sometimes looks like the best quarterback in the NFL, and sometimes he looks like the worst. It's been an eyesore. It's been the ugliest 7-3-1 team I've ever seen. The prettiest thing I saw was the tie of all things this year so far. And that's saying something because I don't like ties in the NFL, completely ruining the standings. But even though they are 7-3-1, their wins have been ugly. And I feel like they play down to their competition. They had that ugly loss against the Eagles 10-7, one of the ugliest games of the year. You fell to the Panthers. And they have these games where they can't score any points. And I don't get it because they have Josh Jacobs. They have Jordan Love. They have everything they need. But they're an eyesore entirely. I think they're frauds. I think they're going to be a first round exit, to be honest.
Yeah, and we'll see. And they still have to get to the playoffs. They're 2-0 in division right now, but they beat the Lions early on. They play the Bears twice, so you beat the Bears, the Lions early on the season. You beat the Vikings once, but you still have a lot of in division games left. You play the Bears twice, and you play the Lions on Thursday. So if you lose to the Lions, it's going to be a long rest of the season for the Packers here, and then that brings us to the number one team in the division, Chicago Bears, currently at 8-3. They are on a 4-game win streak. They are 5-2 in the conference. I kind of just have to give them an A. You're winning close games. You're reversing course for the Chicago Bears history. You probably have the best tight end duo in the league with Colson Loveslin and Cole Kmet, both having big plays for you the past few games. Looks like you unlocked DJ Moore a little bit. Good special teams and a above average defense that has the potential to find its way in the top 10 at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think the Bears, I got to give them an A. They've exceeded expectations. They've had Not one, not two, not three, not four, five, 6 games, one possession. They've won all of them, so they've been very good there. And typically, these are the type of games that the Bears have lost the last ever. So, got to give them a lot of credit there. Ben Johnson's been a great addition for them. Must have hit on that coaching hire there. Caleb Williams is getting unlocked, and their defense has been great. So, I don't think there's any negative things I can say about the Bears. I still think, this Eagles game is going to be big on Black Friday, and there are some tough games ahead, but I believe in them. I want to see how they bounce back against the Lions at the end of the season as well, but I believe in them. I think they deserve an A.
Is that the last game of the year?
Yeah.
Oh, that could be for the division. Yo,
NFL knows what they're doing.
NFL cooks on week 18. The NFL cooks. I mean, we've had some amazing Sunday night games. We had the Lions and Vikings. We have that famous Derek Carr versus Justin Herbert game that took place where the Raiders beat the Chargers. We've had some epic matchups that have some divisional implications. So yeah, that very well could be for the division, and maybe the other team doesn't even make the playoffs, especially with the next division that we're going to grade here, which is the last division in the NFC, maybe the best division in NFL history, at least with 3 of the teams here. But we start at the bottom with the Cardinals at number 4. Pretty fun, competitive team so far. So I give them a U for upset alert. They're going to just beat someone who's trying to win the division at the end of the year, whether it's the Niners, whether it's the Rams. I feel like they could play some upset ball at the end of the season.
They are a fun team. I'm going to give them a C because there is some games that they lost embarrassingly, but Jacoby Brissett, he's been good for them. Honest to God, he's on track for 3,000 yards, and he played half a season with them. So a lot of credit there. They've broken up with Kyler Murray unofficially, which I think is the right move for them. And I think if they get the right quarterback and coach next year, this could be a very fun team. But for now, they're a C, and they are the last team in that division.
Yeah, and then we have the 49ers who so far this season, I give them an A minus, and I give it to them because Kyle Shanahan has been coaching his ass off. We saw the Mac Jones era, and this team has been pretty much decimated with injuries. You lost some key people in free agency this season as well, with players like Ufunga leaving, Debo Samuel leaving, and this team has kind of scraped it together without without a wide receiver core to speak of. I mean, you had Kendrick Bourne was the highlight at one point. Jawan Jennings is just a nightmare if you're a fantasy owner. And then now it's kind of just George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. We're chugging along here. The defense is playing well. Give them credit there, especially with Robert Sala coming back. Sorry, blanked out on his name. But overall, your defense has played well. So this team has been impressive.
I'm going to give them, I think an A plus is the right grade. I'm giving them an H for how. I don't know how they're 8-4. It's amazing to me. They've also beaten good teams. They've beaten the Rams. They split with them. They've beaten good teams. They beat the Seahawks to begin the season. They had a tough game against the Panthers that they still managed to scrape out a win against. This 49ers team is fascinating to me because I don't think that they're an amazing team, but they just keep finding ways to win. They blew out the Cardinals a few weeks ago. They upset the Giants pretty heartbreakingly a few weeks ago as well. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they keep continuing to be good and winning games, but I give them an H for how because they've done it. Kyle Shanahan, Coach of the Year conversation. A lot of credit to them.
Yeah. And then we have the Seahawks, who are 8-3, kind of the surprise of the year. Have a tough game versus the Rams, but Sam Darnold has 4 turnovers. You still look really good, but you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's been the best receiver in the league, on pace for 2,000 yards. Your defense has been elite with the first-year head coach. And now you're 8-3. 2 of your losses coming in division, one of them early on. And then you lost to Tampa Bay at home in a shootout, had that tough game versus the Rams, but you get to see him again to end the year. So you're still very much in contention for not only the division, but the number 1 seed in the NFC here. So I give them an A plus. I don't think anyone saw this much I guess, firepower coming from the Seattle Seahawks and this much veracity from this team. So shout out to Seattle.
I got to give them an A+. I mean, their defense has been top in the league. Sam Darnold has played exceptional for them. JSN on pace for 2,000 yards. Is there any other rating I can give them besides an A? I didn't expect them to be right there with the Rams. I knew how good the Rams were going to be, but the Seahawks, I didn't believe in them. I thought they were going to be a third-place team. So I got to give them an A. They've been exceptional.
Yeah, and then the Rams, for me, they get the Frosted Flakes grade because they are great. There's not really much else to say because I've had them ranked as the number one team on the Brickyard for the past 3 weeks now. The NFL finally just put them at number one, finally catching up to the Brickyard. The NFL mainstream media is behind. What else is new? But we have the Rams Frosted Flakes award.
I will give them a very clever grade. I'll give them they should get an A+ in a normal grading system, but I'm going to give them a KW for Kanye West because no one team should have all that power. Their defense is exceptional. They have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. They have Kyron Williams. They have the Tyler Higbees of the world still floating around. They have Sean McVay. This team should not be as disgusting as they are, but they are. Puka Nacua at one point was Offensive Player of the Year, a lock to be before he got hurt, and he's still very much in that conversation. He's getting fed constantly by Matt Stafford. Never mind the fact that Matt Stafford has 27 touchdowns to 0 picks over however many games. This team is disgusting. They get a P for power. Kanye West, shout him out. He's back. But the Rams, they're the best team in the NFL. What else is there to say?
And then we shift over to the East, who may have the second best team in the NFL. And we start at the bottom. Now we're here with the Jets, 2-9. Aaron Glenn, this team just struggling. I don't want to be too mean to this team, but I will give them an L for living on a prayer because that is what they've been doing all season.
Yeah, I see what you did there. Give them a J for Jesus because that is what they're going to need in order to be back to being a winning football team. Haven't made the playoffs since 2010. A lot has changed since 2010. I won't get into the specifics, but let's just say I was a lot younger then, a lot less more naive. Jets need Jesus, and maybe we all do, but the Jets specifically need it, especially in the big armpit that is New York.
Yeah, no, that L grade was a bar. That was like a double entendre and one of those if you know, you know. But Miami 4-7. They're on a 2-game win streak at this point for some reason. I give them an F because if you're gonna be bad, just be bad so you can get a high draft pick and then get a quarterback other than Tua. I mean, does winning at the end of the year for Miami really do anything to help your team? No. Tua looks good, so we can talk ourselves into bringing him back. We can talk ourselves into bringing back Mike McDaniel because this team has been injured. Like, just if you're gonna be bad, just be bad. So,
I agree. So for the Dolphins, I got to give them an N for nightmare because this entire year, first game they get blown out by the Colts, they lose to the Patriots, lose to the Bills, and it looks ugly. They get crushed by the Browns of all teams, and then now they're suddenly winning 3 of the last 4 games. Like, if you're gonna suck, I want you to suck. That's why I'm gracious to the teams like the Saints and Titans. But the Dolphins, they're not going to win the division. They're not going to even sniff the playoffs. So just stop winning games. But the worst part is they face the Saints and Jets in back-to-back weeks now, following their bye. So they're probably going to win those games, and suddenly they're back in the mix, unfortunately. So Dolphins, I just want them to suck, but they are nightmare fuel for their fans and for the NFL.
yep. And then we have the Buffalo Bills, who have now appeared not once but twice on the worst top 5 according to the Brickyard. So I can't give them anything other than a F because you're now 2.5 games behind the New England Patriots. So even if you do beat them when you face them, it's going to be a meaningless game for the New England Patriots. And guess what? That game is in New England, which has kind of been a house of horror for Josh Allen. You also squandered your 5-year window where the New England Patriots have been bad. They're probably going to finish 13-4 at worst and be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Now you're going to be going on the road as a wild card team. F for the Buffalo Bills.
I'm giving them an I for insanity, because how many times are you going to do the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result? You have now you're signing Brandon Cooks. You signed Emmanuel Sanders in the past, Amari Cooper. The list goes on. You've done the same rollout. You've had the same defense. You've had the same players, the same coach the whole time, and you're expecting a different result. You had the opportunity to have this chance for the year. The Ravens have been banged up. Joe Burrow's been hurt all season. And the Chiefs don't look like the Chiefs. The Chiefs might not even make the playoffs, but it might not matter because you might not make the playoffs either at this point. So the Bills, they get insanity. They get an eye because they should be at the top of the division. They should be the best team in the AFC, but they're not because they refuse to make any changes in the offseason. And they keep trying to do the same thing that has failed them 5 consecutive seasons and expecting a different result. Insanity. That is the rating they get.
And then we have the New England Patriots at 10-2, looking like they may be in contention for the number 1 seed with the Denver Broncos in the AFC with a pretty easy schedule. And they are now on a 9-game win streak. They are undefeated in their division. The 2 games they did lose were fluky games in September, and I give them the G award for Grinch because they stole the Buffalo Bills Christmas again. And the Bills had a 5-year window, and they went ahead, stole their Christmas, and now the NFL media is pissed off. You see Stephen A. Smith having these weird outbursts and random attacks of frustration that the Patriots are now young, sexy, and handsome again, and they just keep winning, so they can't help it.
So they should get an A plus, obviously, as a normal rating. I'm giving them an H for hated. Everybody hates the Patriots, and the NFL benefits when the Patriots are the villain. And right now, they are the villains. 9 straight wins. Drake May, MVP conversation right behind that of Matt Stafford. 9, like I mentioned, we have Mike Vrabel, who's probably coach of the year. H for hated. You want to be hated. That also means that you're doing great things. So they're at the top. They're probably going to be the 1 seed. So credit to the Patriots.
And then we shift over to the north, where it's going to be very cold and very snowy, especially if you're up in Michigan and in Ohio for Thanksgiving this week. But the AFC North is heating up a little bit. It's crazy because the Bengals are still only 3 games back, and Lamar Jackson has been banged up. Aaron Rodgers has been banged up. So stranger things have happened. If they run the table, they're still in contention. But the Browns at number 4. I give them a D plus for defense because their defense has been awesome. Myles Garrett is on a record-breaking sack pace right now.
Yeah, I'll give them a D for dysfunctional because I don't know why you would trade Joe Flacco in division. I don't understand the Shador Sanders thing, Dylan Gabriel. It's been a mess, but their defense has been great. Myles Garrett could end up with 30 sacks this year potentially. So it's a nightmare. I would hate to be really anybody on the offensive side of the ball facing the Browns, but D for dysfunctional because they do very questionable things. But you know what? Credit to Shador Sanders. Good for the win.
Yeah. Then the Bengals are here, and I give them a R for raft because you're kind of just drifting and you're afloat after Joe Burrow got hurt. You had the Titanic injury happen, which is Joe Burrow going down, and now you're just kind of been floating around, but you still have a chance to make it to safety potentially, but it's a very outside shot and you need to win the rest of the games this year, and it all starts Thursday night versus Baltimore, and you get to play them twice, so they could make it interesting, I guess.
I'm going to I don't know what rating to give them, to be honest, but if they win and run the table, they just can't keep getting away with it. I'm going to give them a Breaking Bad record because if they continue to win and go to 9-8 again, they've done this how many years in a row since the Super Bowl where they play like complete dog shit. They start 1-5, 1-6, in this case, 3-8. At least this time around, Joe Burrow's hurt, so maybe that justifies it more. But they can't keep getting away with this. Stop it. Just start winning games when it matters, and maybe you won't be in this position. I give them Breaking Bad. I'll give them H for Heisenberg, but what a nightmare it's been for Cincinnati. They should have beat the Bears a few weeks ago if they could stop Colston Loveland, but couldn't do that. Their defense sucks. So I give them an H for Heisenberg.
Yeah, and then we have the Steelers at 6-5. They are now ranked number 2 in their division, behind the Ravens, who have now won 5 in a row. The Steelers have had a rough go of it. They've had Mason Rudolph play Aaron Rodgers in and out of the lineup. DK Metcalf has kind of done what DK Metcalf does, which is show that he's really talented, but sometimes he just fizzles out at the end of the year. And for the Steelers, I give them an H because I hate watching this team. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was one of the most entertaining quarterbacks of all time. He had back-to-back 500-yard passing games. They were at least fun to watch. You had that backyard football, good defenses, but now this team, it's just sad. I mean, you start out way ahead in your division to start the season, and we knew it wouldn't be enough for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And I picked them to go 8-1 to start the year, and I still stand by that. Maybe Mike Tomlin has a losing record, but he just has this weird hex on the NFL that won't allow him to lose a game, and then all of his fans just cling on to that. Well, at least he hasn't had a losing season.
They get an M for me for mid. I'll use my mid rating on the Steelers. They are the definition of mid. Their offense is mid. Their defense, if I'm being kind to them, is mid. And DK has been mid for them all year. Their running game is mid. Their tight ends are mid. Their offensive line is mid. Everything about this team is mid, including maybe their coach. So they get an M for mid.
Yeah. And then the Ravens now at the top of the division right now. Honestly, I give them a B plus. I kind of just expected them to be here, especially with how the Steelers are playing. I saw Lamar Jackson coming back and them taking the lead for the division right now. So really, your season is dependent on how you play the Bengals. But even if you lose to Cincinnati on Thursday night, I pretty much think they have the division locked up. They just need to really get healthy on defense. They need a Roquan Smith to be there at the end of the year. But we saw Kyle Hamilton go down with the injury. He got his ankle rolled. So that's definitely not going to help you, especially with how lacking your secondary has been, even with having an all pro in the backfield.
Well, I feel like I need to be kind to the Ravens because Flowers Pod is a Ravens fan. He appreciated your B plus rating. I'm going to give them an R for resurgence because you were dead in the water. You were 1-5. Looked like their season was over. Lamar Jackson was out of the lineup. Derrick Henry was struggling out of the gate. But you've won 5 straight. You're in the playoff picture now. If the season ended today, you are the division leader. And I do think there's more wins on that schedule for the Ravens. It's going to be a big game on Thanksgiving against the Bengals that we'll preview in a few minutes. But they have them. They have the Steelers. They face the Bengals again. So I think they have the division wrapped up. So I'll give them an R for resurgence.
Yeah, R for resurgence. I definitely like that. And then we have 2 divisions left here. And we head to the South, and we'll just start with Tennessee. They're 1-10, and I'll just give you a G for good luck next year. Good luck.
I'm going to do the same. I'll keep it nice. You got a lot to work on, buddy, but good luck. That's what you need.
Yeah,
Bounce back.
I'll give them the Ted Award for you got a lot of problems, don't you?
Yeah, Titans are a mess.
And then we move to Houston, and I give this team a B plus because you probably have the best defense in the league. You look at that team, if that's not a Super Bowl defense, I don't know what is. You're on a 3-game win streak right now. You had an epic comeback versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you're 3-1 in division as well. So if some tiebreakers come into effect, that'll be big. And I do think you're probably going to beat the Indianapolis Colts twice here. So Houston, a solid B plus as well.
And they've won 6 of the last 8 games. They've been tough. They get a B plus rating for me as well. And I honestly think they're going to leapfrog the Colts eventually and be in that division. Whether it's them or the Jags that win, I think they're going to be in the playoffs when it's all said and done. That defense is no joke. They get a B plus for me.
Yeah. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 7-4. They've won 3 out of their last 4 games. They're 1-1 in division, so still have a lot more divisional games to play. But they've kind of just been a team that's, I called them frantic to start the year, and we saw that on Sunday with Trevor Lawrence having 4 turnovers, but 3 touchdown passes and you end up coming back in overtime and beating the Cardinals. But overall, I've still been impressed with what I've seen with this Jacksonville Jaguars team, and I think they could have at least a competitive playoff game. I don't think they'll win one though.
I honestly think the Jaguars are going to win the division because they face the Titans next week. They have the Jets on their lineup later. They actually face the Titans twice, and then you have the Colts twice again as well. Really, only their next tough game is going to be the Colts or the Broncos that maybe they fall to, but I think they're going to win the division. They have been a little unpredictable. I'll give them a B minus, but I do think they're going to win that division.
Yeah, that's definitely a spicy take there, but you could definitely see them winning the division because the Indianapolis Colts, they're 8-3, so I will be generous for this grade, not for your end of year grade, but I will give them a C because they are potentially facing a collapse. Maybe I'll give them a O for Ocean Gate because I think the rest of the season you're just gonna get crushed like Ocean Gate did.
Oh, R.I.P. the Titanic. Never forget. The Colts, if I can give this to the Packers, I think the Colts fit this even more than the Packers. Frauds. The Colts are frauds. Jonathan Taylor, you're not a fraud. You're excluded from that, but everybody else there is a fraud. I don't trust Daniel Jones to do anything. They can't close out the game. We proved that when that happened. And I honestly think the rest of the schedule does get pretty tough. You face the Texans, you face the Jags, you face the Seahawks, you face the Niners, you face the Jags again, you face the Texans another time. So, two of your toughest divisional opponents who you haven't faced all year, you have to face twice. And I think you potentially lose all 4 of those games. Then you have the Niners game. That's not going to be easy. And you have the Seahawks. So these are 6 games that you could very well lose. You could very well be looking at an 8-8, 8-9, 9-8 Colts team, like the Brickyard predicted at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and then their fans, Daniel Jones, we've called Walt Jr. the past few years, and their fans will turn into Walt Jr. because they'll be like, "Why? Why?
Dad.
Daniel Jones, I thought you were good."
No, he's not. He's a fraud. No offense to Daniel Jones. I'm sure he's great. Good for him for dating Kay Adams. But let's talk about the last division, the AFC West. The Raiders, I've given them this grade every single grade so far. But for old, you have Pete Carroll as your head coach. Who would have thought a 74-year-old head coach wouldn't work out in the NFL in 2025? He's not running for president. He's not a good fit for leadership at this point. He should be in a nursing home because he coached the Patriots before Bill Belichick. Let's not forget that. So old for old. I can also say I for Israel because him and Geno Smith, everything seems to link back to Geno Smith and Israel. So something has to be said there, but I'll give him an O for old to continue on with my quarterly grades.
Yeah, they fired Chip Kelly as well. Pete
Also
Carroll
old.
was like, "Oh, I was enamored by his resume." Like, what resume? You mean exhausting offenses in the NFL? He has a good college resume. He had one good year with the Philadelphia Eagles, did not work out with the San Francisco 49ers, and then he was just gassing out his offenses. So, yeah, I will give this team the I award because they are committing a you know what against their fans right now. If you know anything about what's going on in that conflict, don't want to get too political here, but they've been one of the most unlikable teams, similarly to how Gen Z feels about that one small country over there with a couple million people.
Yes, agreed. The Chiefs, I'm giving them an H for hangover. Something doesn't seem right with them. They've been a middling team. They're still in the mix. They probably still make the playoffs, but it feels like a bit of a hangover. Travis Kelce's older. Chris Jones is older. Maybe this is the last of this particular dynasty with the Chiefs. I give them an H for hangover.
Yeah, H for hangover. It just everything on offense has looked hard for this team. Patrick Mahomes looks like he's playing with the hangover every game, especially with all the turnovers we've been seeing right now. So, really don't know what to make about this Chiefs team, but something tells me that the NFL is not going to let them lose out and follow the playoffs, especially in Travis Kelsey's last year and him just getting engaged for the uh, Taylor Swift, getting engaged to Taylor Swift in his last season. So do think the Chiefs will probably find themselves in the playoffs, but it's definitely going to be tough. And if they don't, I think it would just be the NFL course correcting, especially with even Chat GPT calling the refs out for favoring the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So I think the NFL is just trying to scrub out that narrative, especially with them like, okay, if they get to the Super Bowl, they're just going to get blown out by whoever makes it out of the NFC again.
Yeah, I agree. And you know it's bad when artificial intelligence has gotten smart enough to know the intricacies of the NFL, and they know that something's going on. So buyer beware there. Chargers. For I have multiple Chargers friends, which is rare because I feel like there's not many Chargers fans. I think I know about 50% of the fan base at this point, but they've already given up on the season and they're 7-4. They're in the playoffs if the season ended today. But the last time we saw them, they lost to the Jaguars very embarrassingly, 35-6. And outside of their defense, which has also succumbed to a lot of injury, I just think if you want to call the Patriots fool's gold, why don't we call the Chargers fool's gold? Because they were super hot to start the season and they have since fizzled out. And they have a gauntlet for the rest of the season. Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos, all to end the season, all in a row. The only layup potentially is the Raiders, who we know their history with the Raiders. That's not necessarily a layup for the Chargers. So I think they are in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to say T for trouble
Nine and
for the
eight.
Chargers.
9-8.
9-8, probably 9-8.
Yeah.
Sadly,
I'll give
but
him a S for SOS.
send an alert. Someone check on the Chargers fan. Singular tense, not multiple. Broncos, easy enough. They've won 8 straight. They are fighting for the 1 seed. They get an A. They've been great. Defense is exceptional. Bo Nix has been good for 25% of each game, so that's enough to get a win. So Broncos get an A.
Yeah, A+ for me for the Broncos. You've won 8 straight games right now. You beat the Kansas City Chiefs, essentially dealing them a knockout blow for winning the division here, eliminating their hopes there. It'd have to be a dramatic turn of events for the Denver Broncos to lose out on the division. All made possible by Sean Payton just being an elite head coach. Bo Nix, I mean, he hasn't been the best quarterback in the league, but at least he's been clutch and put together a drive. And he even put together a game winning drive against this Houston Texans defense, which is something Josh Allen can't say he's done this year. Had an impressive win in Philadelphia. So, got to give him an A+ here as well. You're looking at potentially the number 1 seed in the AFC.
We love to see it. But we have given our grades for 3/4 of the NFL season. We've recapped all of week 12. We have arguably the best week of football ahead of us for Thanksgiving. I say we get right into it, dive right into the games for Thanksgiving. We
Yeah.
start we start with Lions and Packers in Ford Field. Lions are favored at 2.5. It's a little bit of a tough game to pick for me. If I look at history, the Lions are not great on Thanksgiving, and usually my gambling rules are never bet on the Lions on Thanksgiving. However, they did break that curse last year, so I will take the Lions to beat the Packers. I do think they're the better team.
Yeah, and you've been on a good streak as far as picking games as well, cashing in on those spreads. So you've been pretty accurate this year with your picks. I'll go with the Packers in this game, however, just because something doesn't sit right with where the lines are at in this game. You have a battle with the New York Giants, which I definitely don't like to see. And then the Packers have played upset ball with the Lions, and this is just more of a pick where I hope I am wrong and the Lions come out on top. But for me, I just have a gut feeling that something's going to go horribly wrong for Detroit, and the Packers are going to end up winning this one. But I hope I am wrong, and you can all laugh at me next Tuesday.
I hope so too. I hope I can laugh at you as well. But we'll see. Cowboys and Chiefs, America's game. This is in Jerry World. We have a Post Malone halftime performance, so that'll be fun to see. Chiefs are favored
Will
at
it?
3. Yeah, they are in Jerry World. And honest to God, maybe this is crazy of me, but I do think the Cowboys can sneak out a win. Historically, the Cowboys are very good on Thanksgiving. They're 44-20, I believe, on Thanksgiving games. So historically great. over the last 10 years, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. However, I liked what I saw with them this past week, coming back against the Eagles. Their defense seems to be stepping up since the deadline. And the Chiefs, I just feel like this is just not their year. I think for America, this is better if the Cowboys win. Even though everyone hates the Cowboys, I have a sneaking suspicion the Cowboys cover the 3.5-point spread.
Yeah, Cowboys should cover it here, but you just had a big win versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That was your first team against an opponent with a winning record here, so it's not like it's been a regular thing. Last time the Chiefs played you on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, we saw that epic touchdown from Tyreek Hill at the end of the half. So I do think the Chiefs win this game because the Chiefs are pretty much in a win or go home scenario for the rest of the season. So I just think coaching in the end will be enough to get it done. And I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs defense did step up and come alive versus the Indianapolis Colts. So they should win this game. But Dallas, they have George Pickens, you have CeeDee Lamb. So definitely have a chance to upset them. But on the Post Malone halftime, I don't know. I've seen him
Okay.
live twice, and he's been struggling to keep his voice going.
Well, will he be better than Jack Harlow last year? That'll be the real question. Or maybe, was that 2 years ago? I don't remember. Flower Pod, thank you for not doing a Google search. 44, 22, and 1 is the Cowboys' Thanksgiving record. They do historically cook on prime times on Thanksgiving. So, I'll give them credit there, but that should be a very interesting game. I also see the refs obviously leaning Chiefs' way as they do. But this is for Flowers Pod. The final game of the suit, we have the Joe Burrow return against the Ravens. Lamar versus Joe Burrow to end Thanksgiving. Most of us will probably be recovering from a nap, most likely. The Ravens are favorited at a touchdown. And again, the return of Joe Burrow. Will he be the Joe Burrow we know and love? I do think this game is going to be a lot closer. I will take the Bengals to cover, but I do think at this point, the Ravens are probably going to win this game. Simply because the Bengals have so much ground to cover. They have not been good on the road, and the Ravens are red hot. So I'm taking the Ravens in this one.
Did you say the Ravens are red hot at this point? Like, apologies in advance to Flowers Pod, but their offense the past 2 weeks has not looked impressive. You went up against the Browns and the Jets, and those are two tough, scrappy teams, but the Bengals gave the Patriots trouble, and now you're going to have Jamar Chase returning from a week's rest where he pulled a Draymond Green, where if Steph Curry's not playing, I don't want to play either. So he went ahead and spit on his opponent, which in retrospect was kind of funny. But I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals will cover and they will win this game just because Lamar Jackson hasn't quite been himself, hasn't been healthy. Still think the Ravens can win the division, but I do think that the Bengals will end up coming away with the victory on Thursday night.
Well, Flowers Pod agrees with you. So that's okay. That's all right. I honestly, the Bengals are more desperate, so I think that's where that win could come for them. But Ravens, they have won 5 straight, so they've strung together some wins. And I would like to think that with each day, he's getting a little healthier, that being Lamar, but we shall see. Thanksgiving games are always tricky to pick, but Black Friday, a game that just started this past year, but Bears and Eagles. Eagles are favorited at a touchdown. Both teams are in the mix for potentially the 1 seed.
It's a big spread.
Yeah, this is a big spread. And honestly, I think this is kind of a disrespect to the Bears. The Bears have played in a close game pretty much every single game. So I do think the Bears cover in this game, but I'm honestly feeling the Bears. Something just feels like in the water with the Eagles. There's a little bit of tension with A.J. Brown. What will happen with them? Their offense has stalled for multiple second halves now at this point. There is some area of concern. This game, I do think, is going to be a lower scoring game, but I'm going to take the Bears to prevail, win by a field goal, and win on Black Friday.
Yeah, I'll take the Bears as well. I've been feeling the vibes with the Chicago Bears team. And what I like is anytime the Bears show up, they're winning in close one possessions games, and they show up with that muscle. They show up with Colston Loveland, who's been breaking tackles ripping off big plays. And then Cole Kmet was banged up to start the year. Looks like he's getting back in the groove of things. And don't forget, he's been one of the most underrated tight ends the past few years. He can block, he can catch. Now you have two legitimate threats in the red zone at the tight end position. You have DJ Moore who start to get unlocked, and then just something is off with this Philadelphia Eagles team. And typically, when the Eagles do lose games, they lose in back-to-back fashion. So honestly, give me the Bears. They're a fresh face, and they don't feel like the same old Bears because I've never seen a Bears team that's actually enjoyable to watch. Even the Matt Nagy teams, I mean, they were fine. They made the playoffs. They went 12-5 one year, but were they enjoyable to watch?
No.
No.
No, it was a defensive team at that point. I agree. I think the Bears they're in a good place. Their morals are high. They're ascending, so I like the Bears there as well. We have some pretty rough 1 o'clock slates. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll try to get through these as quick as possible. Niners and Browns.
boy.
We have the second career start for Shedeur Sanders. The 49ers are favored at 4.5 on the road. Shedeur Sanders getting more reps in this game. So, I mean, Niners should win this game, right? It's against the Browns, right?
I feel like this is a game they should win, but I think I remember when we were previewing the Browns season, you actually picked the Browns to win this game. And with what I saw from Brock Purdy on Monday night, he turned the ball over a couple times. I'm not impressed at all with the San Francisco 49ers receiving core. I mean, the number one statistic is how many times the receivers have gotten shot. So I don't love that. So give me the Browns in this one. I think at home in Cleveland, Brock Purdy in a cold weather game, being a California guy, I actually think the Browns may get some momentum going. So give me Cleveland in the upset.
Keep in mind, it is going to be 40 degrees there. So, cold weather team, go on the, 49ers go on the road. Brock Purdy looked bad. So, I've seen crazier things in the NFL. So, I like that take. I might actually take that with you, to be honest. Let's get the Falcons and Jets game out of the way.
Oh,
One
God. Come on.
One team's going to win this game and leave still below 500. The Falcons did have a good win with Kirk Cousins. Maybe I should ride there. But this just feels to me, I don't know if maybe it's the pre-Thanksgiving hangover that I'll soon have, but I smell a Jets win for some reason. And maybe it's because I'm thankful that I'm not a Jets fan. But the Jets, it's in East Rutherford. It's going to be nice and warm at 48 degrees. Maybe the Jets get this win. I do expect them to win maybe one or two more games. And against the Falcons with Kirk Cousins, anything is possible. I'm going to take the Jets with the upset. Sneaking suspicion.
I will not take the Jets with the upset because the Atlanta Falcons are a bad team and they're bad at being bad. So I think they're going to pick up a couple wins, play themselves out of a top draft pick to end the season. Kirk Cousins is also going to be playing for a job next year, whether it's as a backup quarterback or just a little extra cash on the side, unless he decides to retire. But I think the Falcons, they're the better team and should win this one. And Kirk Cousins is playing for something.
Well, teams that are not playing for something as we transition to another bad 1 o'clock slate game, Saints and Dolphins. So speaking of bad teams that are bad at being bad, the Dolphins, just like the Falcons, you compared them to the NFC Falcons in the past, and I think that's fair. I'm going to take the Dolphins to beat the Saints in Hard Rock Stadium. They're 3-3 at home. They suck everywhere else. They're favorited by almost a touchdown by 6. Saints are just a sad team, unfortunately. I'll take the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins as well. Jalen Waddle has been doing his thing, so I think that should be enough to get it done. But part of me wants to pick this game as a tie, but I've picked too many so far this year. I can't use it on this game.
You can't use it yet. Jags and Titans. Jags at
Jaguars.
6.5.
You have to win this game or you're frauds. I'm throwing you
Yes.
away if you lose this game.
I don't
I'm
want to play
dropping
with
you
you
off
anymore.
at the daycare like Andy did in Toy Story 3.
I don't want to play with you anymore, said Andy. So the Jags, they got to win that game, surely. Let's talk about a good game. We'll talk about Texans and Colts. This is in Indianapolis. The Colts are 6-0 at home, so they've been really good at home. But that Texans defense is no joke. And honestly, I don't believe in this Colts team anymore. I don't think I ever really did. I think the Texans, they can stop Jonathan Taylor with that defense that they have, and that's going to make it up to Daniel Jones to win the game for them. I think we see a Texans win here, and I think we see the Colts lose their first game at home.
Yeah, CJ Stroud should be back in this game. Usually, when you're in concussion protocol, you only miss 2 or 3 weeks. We saw Dougie Mills at this point have a couple good wins where he's strung together, and then Woody Marks starting to come alive. So you have a legitimate threat out of the backfield. You've involved him in the pass game. Like what I'm seeing from Jaden Higgins, you took him in the first round for a reason, I believe, or not the first round. He was your top draft pick, though, in the second round. And then Nico Collins is doing Nico Collins thing. So I just like how scary this Houston Texans defense is. And then you're also coming off a mini bye where you get to annihilate the Bills on Thursday Night Football. And if that's how you made Josh Allen look, how's Daniel Jones going to look? Like, we got one long run from James Cook. I think we'll see maybe even if we get 2 long runs from Jonathan Taylor, that's still only 14 points. Where the rest of your points going to come from if you're Indianapolis? You have to hold Houston to 13 maybe to beat them.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the Texans are the better team, even though their record says otherwise. They've also won 6 of the last 8 games, and I think the Colts are starting to descend a little bit. So I agree there. Now, this could be a fun game, although on paper it might not be. Cardinals and Bucks in Raymond James. You have Jacoby Brissett, potentially Teddy Bridgewater in the game. Bucks are banged up. Baker's dealing with an AC joint on his non-throwing shoulder. Maybe he plays, but he's certainly not going to be 100%. Bucks are favored at 3.5. Given the state of the Bucks and where they are, something smells to me like potentially the Cardinals win this game. They typically win these games that you least expect. Jacoby Brissett has played well for them. We have Marvin Harrison back. Michael Wilson played well. Trey McBride's been great all season. I'm going to take the Cardinals upset.
Yeah, I don't even think this should be an upset. Like, when they least expect it, like, well, they played pretty solid the past few weeks. 1 week, Jacoby Brissett broke a NFL record for completions, or at least tied it, and then he threw for 49 yards or 49 attempts last week versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. You take them to overtime. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been pretty hot. Your defense is playing well, so I do think this is going to be another game where Tampa struggles, and I'm picking Arizona to win this game. I think they've just been the better team over the past few weeks, even though they've lost a bunch of games.
I agree. Last of the 1 o'clock slates,
Oh,
Rams and
it's a
Panthers.
mess. What a
Yeah.
mess.
What a mess of a 1 o'clock slate. This is usually the 4 o'clock slates. What are we doing, NFL? But Rams and Panthers. Panthers, I mean, technically, if we go by logic, if we go by patterns, which we sometimes do, they beat the Jets, then lost to the Bills, beat the Packers, then lost to the Saints, beat the Falcons, then lost to the Niners. So, did they beat the Rams? Unfortunately, I'm not that retarded. So, I'm going to pick the Rams to beat the Panthers here. And it's a 10.5 point spread. I probably don't touch that, but Rams win this game.
Yeah, I will take the Rams to win this game as well. I think like the Panthers and Buccaneers, it's one of them just needs to win one more game to win the division at this point. We may actually see a team with a losing record win the NFC South, and that's when I think the NFL should step in and put in either the Lions or Packers or 49ers if they're still sitting on the outside of the playoffs. So I think the NFC South needs to take a break from the playoffs this year, to be honest. I think Commissioner Goodell needs to step in, use some of that power.
Yeah, and uh, our friend on the show here, Flowers Pod, he agrees. He thinks the Rams will win by 30. Now we have the 4 o'clock slates, and they're actually not as bad as they normally are, but we'll get the bad one out of the way first. Chargers and Raiders. Chargers are favored at 9.5 at home against the lowly Raiders. Post Chip Kelly, New Hampshire native, out the door. No longer running plays for the Raiders, and that might be a win for the Raiders. But Chargers are banged up. I'd like to think they can still beat the Raiders, but I know their history against the Raiders, and I know that the Chargers lose games that they shouldn't. Something smells to me like the Raiders are going to cover this game. I'll still pick the Chargers to win, but I do think the Raiders will cover this game.
Yeah, I think the Chargers should win this game. Something does tell me that the Raiders are going to win. They played two tough defenses in back to back weeks. especially last week. It was a tough outing against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns defense has been still one of the better defenses in the NFL. Myles Garrett on a historic run right now, who may win Defensive Player of the Year. So go ahead and give me the Raiders in this one. I think they could get a boost by moving on from Chip Kelly, and then hopefully they can just find a way. Just get Ashton Genty the ball in space, and good things will happen.
Yes.
And Brock
Agreed.
Bowers too. I mean, he exists, right?
He does exist, and he's a damn good tight end. So, do you like revenge? I like revenge. Seahawks and Vikings. Vikings said, Sam Darnold, go about your ways. We're done with you. We don't want you anymore, said Andy from Toy Story. We don't want to play with you. Seahawks said, we'll play with you. We'll put you in. How about 2,000 yards on pace for JSN? They face the Vikings in Seattle. They're favored at 10.5. The way that JJ McCarthy is playing, how can I bet the Vikings to win any games this upcoming slate of games? I'll take the Seahawks. Thoughts on the Vikings and Seahawks and the Sam Darnold revenge tour?
Yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba going head to head with Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to continue on his historic run. I mean, you made Jordan Love and Christian Watson look like a dynamic duo. I think Sam Darnold and JSN will do just fine. So not really much to talk about in this one. The Seahawks should just win this one, and if you don't, there's a problem. It's really, is JJ McCarthy going to pass for over 100 yards, or is he still Justin Fields?
That is a great question to know. But last of the 4 o'clock slates, it is the Bills and Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. This is in, I'll call it Heinz Field. Bills are favored at 3.5. Bills are 2-3 on the road this year. Not a great road team so far. So this is a tricky game. I'd like to think, right, that the Bills should win this game after losing to the Texans. But neither of these teams I can trust, is what I know so far. I'll take the Bills, but I'm not confident in that pick.
Yeah, I'll take the Bills as well to beat the Steelers here. The Bills have kind of owned the Steelers' lunch ever since the Sean McDermott and Josh Allen era, and ever since Ben Roethlisberger hasn't been the quarterback this year. Really, the interesting thing now that we both picked the Bills to win is we've seen some NFL players in relationships, specifically like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And overall, would you say Swifties have been pretty positive about Travis Kelce? Like, oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy about this. Now we're all Chiefs fans. They tune in to root for him. Well, Josh Allen went to Wyoming since he played on Thursday night to see his jersey retired at his old college. And there's some pictures of him and Haley Steinfeld, and her fans were essentially calling him ugly, saying, why is she with this douchebag, this cheating man? I don't even know if he's cheated on her, to be honest. That's not even a verifiable fact. Let us know in the comments if he has, though. And then essentially, like, they just called him ugly and they hate this guy. Like, they don't like Josh Allen at all. I'm like someone who, I'm not necessarily like a full-on hater of Josh Allen, but I have my criticisms of him. But it's never been that no homo that he's ugly. And this is a guy who is 6'5" and going to be worth maybe $1 billion at one point in his career. But Haley Steinfeld fans do not like Josh Allen.
I think it's funny that they're saying that he's the cheater, but I feel like if any of them in that relationship is going to cheat, it's her. She's an actress. She's, in her roles making out with her co-stars. Like, I don't know. Seems like maybe she would be the one there. Josh Allen, if you look at all of his interviews, talks about how much he loves his wife. And I don't know. I'm not by any means, a guy that swings both sides of the fence. However, Josh Allen's a good-looking guy. He's, like you mentioned, he's 6'5", 240, good build. Flowers Pod doesn't know if he's a cheater either. So unreliable sources from the Haley Steinfeld community. Maybe they check the facts there, but I don't know. Like, Josh Allen's a good-looking guy. He's a quarterback. He's pretty much the definition of like what you would want for if you're a female, good-looking, tall guy who makes a lot of money. So I don't understand that at all. But I know Swifties are a little crazy, but they love Travis Kelce. I don't know what the Steinfeld stands, what they look like, but it's an interesting crowd to probably say the least.
I have an idea because was it on what was she on, Disney Channel or a Nickelodeon?
I think it was Disney Channel.
And
Maybe.
I was like scrolling through like some of the comments. I was trying to figure out where this beef between her fans and Josh Allen came from, and it was mostly just because she played a lesbian on TV with on Disney Channel, and essentially they're just mad because now they think that she is in real life, even though she did this thing called acting. She was on a show pretending to be something that she's not for a television show, and now that they're mad that she's dating probably one of the highest rated Giga Chads in the world. I mean, he's an NFL quarterback who is six
He's a
five, who's
beast.
going to make over $300 million. And now they're upset that they don't fit the facade that they had of her in her mind. And it's just crazy how people on the internet are so opinionated on other people's relationships, where it's just like, why don't you leave them alone? Actually, if they're happy, just be happy for them. And if anyone could do better, it's Josh Allen, if we're being
Yes.
realistic.
Yes, and Haley Steinfeld, very attractive woman. No denying that there. However, this phone here, you know how there's a lock button? You put the phone down, go outside, touch grass, go into your community, go outside, go in a park, get some air. Like these people, I don't know if they just don't shower. I don't know if they ever just get offline. But you guys, like the people that are accusing that, they are insane. And just get offline, go outside, touch grass, talk to a stranger, like just do something. But don't just be scrolling online, making up insane conspiracies. You're insane. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. And if Flowers Pod and the Brickyard can't verify it, probably not true.
And we know our sources. We're right about a lot of things, especially Flowers Pod. He's been putting on some great takes today. So I think there's do some more investigating. Two more games. Two games that I don't understand are on prime time. Given Flowers Pod doesn't know what grass is. Flowers Pod, look outside. Unless if
What
you're in the
are you
cold.
from Baltimore, Flowers Pod? Like, if you're from Baltimore, you probably don't know what grass is. So,
Oh, he knows what grass. All right, he's just kidding. Flowers Pod,
oh,
just
it's
kidding.
just kidding.
Just kidding.
Okay.
False alarm. Um, two primetime games to cover. Sunday night football, Broncos, Commanders. Don't know why this is the primetime game. Following plenty of other good games. Bills and Steelers would have been just fine there, or even
It was supposed to be
Vikings and
Jaden
Steelers.
Daniels, but
Yeah,
they
supposed to
don't
be
use their
Jaden
flex
Daniels.
power.
Flex power is a powerful thing that they never utilize, and haven't utilized it yet this season. Broncos should win this game, right? I mean, Commanders with Marcus Mariota. I mean, or maybe Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, both teams coming off a bye too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Broncos. Broncos should win that game, surely.
Yeah, that's an easy pick.
And then this game should be fun. It's a Monday night game. Patriots and Giants. Patriots are favored at 7.5. Tricky spread. But we have the great Jameis Winston playing for the Giants. And, you know, Giants and Patriots have a little bit of history. Two Super Bowls, some 15 plus years ago. This is going to be a fun game. Patriots, I still think, win this game. But I think there's going to be, I think the over is what I would pick. 46.5. I like the over there. I just think Jameis is going to chuck it. He's going to do everything he can. But Patriots should still prevail. But I think the Giants may cover. I think that seven and
Yeah,
a half is a catch.
I'll pick the Patriots as well, even though I think the Giants actually have a shot to win this game, and I'll tell you why. Because of Brian Burns. Brian Burns has been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. It's been him, Miles Garrett, Nick Bonito is up there as well. But when you lose your starting tackle in Will Campbell, that's definitely going to be a tough void to fill. And we saw the Giants all over Jared Goff on Sunday. So I definitely think it'll be a tough game, but the Patriots just should win this game. Like overall defensively, I think that will be enough to get it done in this one.
I would agree. But we have been previewed and recapped and graded for all things NFL. So you have gotten your entire NFL fix thanks to the Brickyard.
What a mess on Sunday. I mean, I feel like this is probably one of the weakest Sundays, but Thursday looks like it's going to be awesome. Friday should be a fun game with the Bears, but if it swings either way, I could see that the Bears go ahead and blow out the Denver Broncos. But we've been going strong for 2 hours and 28 minutes, but we have, typically we go over what we've been watching, what we've been going over. Do you want to go over that, or do you want to go over like maybe a Thanksgiving preview?
Thanksgiving. Well, I can do a little bit of both. I watch off. Have you ever seen Office Space? Came out in the
Mm-mm.
2000s. If you've ever worked in a corporate job, very funny movie from Mike Judge, the guy who made King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead. But it's a funny office comedy for those who work in a corporate or just just a shitty job. Perfect jokes. They have, I'm forgetting exactly who's in there. Jennifer Aniston's in it, and
Love that.
it's a fun watch. It's on Amazon. I would recommend watching it. It's a funny show, funny movie, and it's still pretty timely.
I feel like Paul would always talk about that crowbar from Fidelity. Shout out Paul if you're listening to this after the fact still, but I feel like he would always mention Office Space. But I kind of do like just those like subtle like corporate comedies. Like The Office, not everyone likes it. I know you're not the biggest fan of it, but it kind of just covers like kind of just the mundane like day-to-dayness, like working a corporate job in the office. And I've worked for a couple corporations now, and it's just like you have the painful bright fluorescent lights that feels like it's sucking a part of your soul out of it. And then you also have that most corporations treat you like a middle schooler. They're like, oh, today we're doing a coloring book, or we have a special snacky for you guys. Isn't that great? Well, our CEO gets $1 million bonus.
Yeah, I agree. It's the same thing. I mean, it's a lot of the corporate bullshit that you got to put up with, the team outings, it's just the plain, just boring, mundane work. So it's a funny movie, especially if you've worked in a shitty job. I think you'll relate to it, but very funny. I like Mike Judge. He's a good. I like King of the Hill. I like Beavis and Butthead. So I think you would like it if you've been in a shitty job before.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out because I've definitely heard that movie come up a lot. So it's just one of those things where it's probably time to watch that one.
Yeah, it's a good one to watch. Also, Flower Pot asks who our teams are. I would say for us, we're historically NFL fans. Like I think we kind of just follow the sport and follow like teams that we like. We've been Lions fans the last few years under the Dan Campbell, but historically, growing up in New England, following the Patriots, I think we're a little biased towards. I'm a little biased towards the Patriots. I'll admit that, but that's probably my team, but I think these days I'm probably just more of an NFL fan these days.
Yeah, it's like talking about it each week. I like talking about each of the teams, but I grew up a Steelers fan. The Steelers still are my team. The first Super Bowl that I watched was the Ben Roethlisberger Super Bowl against the Arizona Cardinals. Remember that James Harrison played distinctly. So that's just a core sports memory for me. So I am a Steelers fans. I am, very realistic about the Steelers though. So sometimes I get called a fake fan, but I'm not. I'm just realistic about the Steelers. And like if I think they suck, they suck. I don't root for a team blindly or pick them blindly.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm a pretty realistic Patriots fan. This season, I understand that we've had a pretty easy schedule, but I do think that they are a team that can make the AFC title game. Don't know if they're quite Super Bowl ready yet, but I would say I lean Patriots. But I've flirted with the Lions, and I've flirted with a few other teams, but Patriots are who I identify as a fan of.
Yeah, it's like hard not to be, especially we both grew up in New Hampshire, so it was like tough for me to be a Steelers fan, especially living with all the Patriots fans and the Patriots just destroying the Steelers every time they played them in the playoffs was tough.
Yeah, 100%. But I watched Office Space. Have you been watching anything recently to shout out?
Yeah, I am still watching The Sopranos right now. I believe last week when I watched it, I'd only watched a couple episodes and I thought it was interesting, but once you get past like episode 6 and you get into like episode 7 of season 1, they really crank up the heat and the show just feels like a slow boil all the way through. And I like that it's like kind of a comedy, and Tony Soprano is definitely one of the most complex characters I've seen on TV. And this is a show I've just been putting off for a while because I know a lot of people say that this is the greatest show of all time. And now that I'm almost done the second season, I can see why people would say the show's better than Breaking Bad. Like for me, my two favorite shows heading into this were like Breaking Bad of Game of Thrones and Game of Thrones, but this is probably up there. Like if I rewatch it, I'll definitely decide what my favorite show is. But definitely like this one a lot, and there's just a lot of funny moments in it. I like when they're trying to watch the bootleg version of The Godfather, and then the DVD keeps like skipping. And they're all there, and then they have to go over each time. Like, what's your favorite scene? He's like, I'm not fucking going over this with you again. How many times have we watched this movie?
Yeah, I think it's great. It mixes comedy, it mixes drama, and I think over the course of the 6 seasons, it just keeps building on each season, so that by the time you get to the final season, it's just like how in Breaking Bad, when you get to like season 4, it's just every episode is just super intense. That's how The Sopranos gets by the end of it.
Yeah, and I like it a lot so far. It's like definitely if you're in the comments, don't spoil it because I don't know how it ends here, but it's definitely probably one of the most like complex shows, and it seems like they take all of the best tropes from like the mob movies and they kind of put a bow on it because this show ran from 1999 to 2007. So it feels like almost just like a good cap on that genre. And I feel like ever since then, we haven't had like a great mob movie or show.
Yeah, I don't know if this would count. I know people shout out Mad Men, but I've never seen it. That's the
That's a
only other show
terrible
that I could.
show.
Yeah, that's the only show that I could that would be mentioned in that, like, since The Sopranos, but nothing. I think Sopranos. I feel like there's plenty of shows that are deserving of like the greatest of all times. However, I do think that The Sopranos probably are the best. Is probably the greatest of all time in that case.
No, Mad Men, I watched like the first two seasons and I've never been more bored in my life. Like hot take, but like it's not even a mob show, it's just about a marketing firm. And it's like you're just
Yeah.
watching John Hamm. It's one of, like the most boring shows, and then it's just, oh, watch this guy cheat on his wife in the 50s. Like, oh, that's cool, I guess. It's like them just sitting around smoking cigarettes. So if you're a Mad Men fan, like please enlighten me why. Because when I watched it, I've never wanted to take a nap more in my life.
Oh yeah, 100%. And there's plenty of shows like that. Um, I never got into like the Wednesday show. Everyone said that show was great. That show sucked. So there's plenty of shows like that. I know Wednesday and Mad Men are not in the same regard, but uh, yeah, I never got into Mad Men. I'm not a big fan of John Hamm, to be honest. So I don't know if that's a show for me.
Yeah, he's like okay. I feel like his best movie he's been in was probably Baby Driver, but that's just because of
Hmm.
the movie itself. But if you haven't seen that movie, that's definitely a good one. It's directed by Edgar Wright, who did like Shaun of the Dead, Hot
Hmm.
Fuzz, and
Oh,
then they
okay.
got John Bernthal in it, Kevin Spacey before he was canceled. It's one of his last movies, and they have I think it's like um, I forget the name of the main actor in it, but he's good.
Yeah, I'll go check it out someday. But Office Space is what I watched. I would recommend it if you've been at a shitty job, and then you've been watching The Sopranos. But everything recapped, previewed, graded. We've got Thanksgiving covered. You guys, for those who are still in the live, appreciate your support with us over these last 13 weeks. We're back better than ever for the fourth quarter of the NFL season, the witching hour, dare I say, as the playoffs start to shake out. Most importantly, as we come back next Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern time, most importantly, stay
Stay
brick.
Brick.